I tell you what, this might just be for posterity. I have no idea. I know it was a big night last night. There we go. Let me get a little light on the subject. It was a big night last night, not only for me, for the crew. Having Sargon on was pretty phenomenal for me. I got a little lost, and not lost in a part. For me, it was slightly surreal seeing that. I don't know. I was trying to explain it to my wife because I don't get flabbergasted very often. I don't get starstruck. I've met a lot of famous people in my life and been around famous people and people that thought they were famous and thought they were important. And here's the fact of the matter. It usually doesn't affect me really in any way whatsoever. And I found myself feeling like a local reporter must feel if suddenly they're sitting down and having an interview with Tucker Carlson, or even, hey, let's look at Bill O'Reilly right now, because yeah, Bill O'Reilly is going through whatever it is Bill O'Reilly's going through right now. But if I was interviewing him about, doing whatever he was doing on the phone with an unsuspecting victim, I would still feel like, he's an important person. And if I was a reporter or a opinion monger like O'Reilly, and in this case with Sargon, I am a YouTuber, no matter how small I am. I was taken aback, and it was surreal. I've been watching Sargon since probably 2014, somewhere around there, and started watching his historical stuff, and then continued on for the SJW stuff. And I don't know. I'm not going to call him a hero or an idol, but it was incredible to have one of my peers that has reached a height that, to be bluntly honest, I never want to really reach. Sargon did say he was lucky in that in his life only 2 people have noticed him on the street and been like, Sargon of Akkad, and he was like, oh, good gracious, and like shuffled on his way, because he strikes me as, even though he's very intelligent, has a command over the English language second to none. And is, just brilliant with words and a master of the spoken word is what I would say. Still, he doesn't want to be, if you think he wants to be famous or, wants to be the next Kardashians over there in merry old England, you're crazy. He doesn't want to do anything like that. Or at least that's what he said. I'm not assuming anything, but he made it very clear that to be famous or something like that was the furthest thing from his mind and the last thing that he wanted to do. And then you have Count Dankula. We had Count Dankula on, and also I do not believe he ever wanted to be famous, let alone infamous, which is basically how Dank ended up. Everywhere he goes, it's Sieg Heil, and it's the Nazi pug guy. And he told a story on the stream about kicking a door in on a booth in the restroom on a the partition door and saying, he sees people in there doing cocaine. And he was like, y'all got to get the hell out of here. He was a bouncer, in Glasgow of all places. And they're like, you got to get the hell out of here. And they were like, it's Dankula, Sieg Heil, Sieg Heil. Let's gas the Jews. And so basically his boss at the time had to say, Dank, love you. You're a great bouncer, but nobody takes you serious, man. We got to let you go. And anyway, blabbering here a little bit, because to have both of those gentlemen on, Dank, he said over, I have to look right now, I believe 3 million views, 3.2, it might be 2.3. I'm going to go look right now on the Nazi pug dog video, which, come on, if you can get over 1 million people to watch you do anything, it's incredible. But I was given a lowdown, which it's not a secret. Dank will be the first one to tell you. They demonetized that instantly. A lot of folks think, because Dankula's Dankula, he's rich. No, he not only isn't rich, the man struggled for a while. And look, I don't want to say much about how you could or couldn't help him. Number one, if you want to help Dank, don't write any letters. Don't make a freaking stink. Don't call anybody. It's him against the judge. There is no jury. There's nobody to appeal to. These people have no... In fact, I'm going to self-censor right now and not talk about the people that are bringing this up against him, the crown and the magistrate or wherever they call themselves. I'm not going to say anything about it, because the only thing I can do to help Dank is to say, I stand with you. I'm sorry, I should be hitting the cough button. I've been out plowing all day and then mowing my lawn, and man, spring it gets a little thing. But there's nothing I can do outside of say, Dank, I stand with you. I am here in solidarity with you, sir. And no matter what happens, you'll be in my thoughts. And I wasn't joking yesterday or pandering to Dank. When I get down in the dumps and I don't feel like going out and doing my farming, which happens, I'm my own boss. There is no alarm clock here unless I set it. There's no one telling me what to do unless my wife is the one, or the Britisher. He's I call him Cool Hand Brit, and sometimes Jiminy Britisher, because when I get wild and crazy, and because to me, I'm gonna tell you all the truth. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but this is my time to ramble. Last night I did something very un-ogreish. I was quiet a lot, and that's not easy for me because, of course, I wanted to dominate, and I wanted to be the one that asked all the cool questions. And there were some comments that I'm not going to go through. But yeah, of course, I said some things that he didn't have a response to because none of it's planned. And when I asked about North Korea, he's not into North Korea. And I guess in hindsight, if I could have done anything differently last night, I wouldn't have listened to the chat. I wouldn't have listened to my own self. I wouldn't have listened to a couple of the people that I won't mention. And I would have let Britisher and Sargon talk about Syria until probably right now. And, of course, when they beat that horse to death, we could have moved on to something else. But everyone wanted to say something to Sargon, of course. We all had our agendas that we thought, as soon as I say this thing, the great Sargon of Akkad, who has built this empire with his own might and by the sweat of his brow and the strength of his hands, will be so amazed at my wit and how cool and what an excellent idea this topic is. But hey, me included, you can't hit one out of the park every time. Once in a while, you get up there and it's Casey Jones time, and you swing. It's swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and you batter, you batter, you batter, you batter, swing, batter, you out. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say I struck out last night. I don't believe I did, but I will say that I asked a couple questions that Sargon wasn't into it, but. People are going to give him a lot of leeway. I was on with the honey badgers, and to this day I get trolls telling me how horrible I was. Well, listen, I stand my ground, and if somebody says something that either A, I don't know about, or B, don't care about, what am I going to do? Sit there and be like, ooh, honey badgers, yeah. And it wasn't even the cool one I wanted to talk to. I won't mention which one, but the cool one that I liked, I did a video on her. If you care to go back in my archives, see some stupid shit I did, and I was so ready to meet this particular honey badger. And then I don't think I jive with them because I like women, I'm not sure that they do. Maybe they do. I don't even think the women on there like themselves or other women. But that said, look, I'm not going to get off in the weeds about the honey badgers. They're actually really great. And I myself, to save anybody anything weird, I sent Woke Dog a thing and was like, hey, it was really fun, but I'd probably never be back on. It's just because we didn't mesh. And my plan is never to go onto anybody's stream and bring something that they didn't plan on having there or like pressing my agenda. I was there that day and I pressed one thing. Oh, and man, look at me now. Why am I doing this today? It's not just to gloat. I'm really happy after an incident like yesterday. I mean, I got 200 subs. I may or may not have wanted that many subs in one day. It doesn't really matter. I got them anyway. And, but in the end, on a day like today, I was talking to British and I said, Britt, how do you handle this? You wake up one morning, you're sitting down having tea at your favorite coffee shop, having a little scone, enjoying the day. And you send me a tweet and it's, oh, mate, did you notice I went from 3,000 subs to 4,000 subs? It's like, wow, Britt, I'm looking now, you're at 5,000. And then he went from 3,020 some subs, I think 3,028 subs. He's over 10,000 now. I'm saying this with all the humility I can muster. It takes a special kind of person to be able to handle that kind of success. And oh yeah, man, I can hear it right now in a peanut gallery. Oh, success. What do you got to do to handle success? Hang on, give me a second. I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you in just 1 second. Abraham Lincoln said, anybody can handle adversity. And I'm paraphrasing, but anybody can handle adversity. You really want to test a man's mettle? Give him power. And you could go deeper and say, give him fame, give him power, give him recognition. And then you see what the mettle of a man is. And again, this is not, well, it is. So let me just not try to avoid it. This is a butt kissing session. The Britisher knows how to handle fame. And yeah, he's 10,000. So people probably, again, the peanut gallery, oh, fame, huh? Fame. He's got 10,000 people. And there's folks, and, the Kardashians have, 10 trillion people that follow their butts wobbling down, and every move they make is, on TMZ and everything else. But I don't mean that. When your footprint, when who you are is magnified this many times as it was for the British, or in other words, you're 3 times more well-known when you wake up the next day than you were when you went to bed, that is something to handle. That is something that some people can be jerks. I did witness it last night with 2 folks that are in the limelight and the spotlight and have a wee bit of influence, and that is with Count Dankula, and to a much larger magnitude with Sargon. I went into it thinking, oh man, I don't know to call him Carl, to call him Sargon. Sargon would be better for my channel. Before we started, I was like, hey, if you don't mind, it would be better for me if I refer to you as Sargon. I've seen some interviews where they call you Carl. He's so soft-spoken, man. We tell him to crank his mic up. And a truer, more down, and not going to get into anything more personal, which was a whopping maybe 2 minutes that we talked off air. But I still wouldn't get into anything personal other than that. A more genuine human being. What you see when you're watching his videos, that is Carl Sargon of Akkad. A genuine human being that prizes logic and reason above all else. In his heart of hearts, he doesn't even give a crap about me, about you, about even himself, unless that me, you, or himself lines up with logic and reason. Don't waste his time with a bunch of feels. Don't waste his time with a bunch of, I think it's this way, or it should be that way. Don't get in there with that. And in my heart of hearts, I can't say a lesser degree. In fact, with all due respect to Sargon, to a much greater degree, you have Count Dankula. I know some people that think they're tough. I may or may not be one of them. When they are faced with the kind of adversity that this man is facing right now, they find out very quickly that their toughness is roughly akin to a 13-year-old girl being stood up on her first school dance date. They find themselves not able to eat and weeping and I don't know, hey, maybe Dank has problems eating. Maybe at night when no one is watching and his old lady is dead asleep, he turns his face to the wall and allows one crystalline tear to slowly dribble out of his right eye and one tiny to come out of his face. And that's it. Because at the end of the day, he understands that he comes from a long line of Highlanders. I believe Highlanders, and I'm saying that wrong too. Correct me sometime, Dank, if you're even condescending to watch this drivel. But he comes from a long line of Scots that will stand up to adversity. And we got into it a little bit last night. Don't mistake the Braveheart nonsense for reality. It was a movie, folks. Prima Noctis or whatever. Come on, give me a break. It very rarely, if ever, happened. And the Scottish people, when it comes right down to it, are Britons. They're British people. So you know what I'm going to do, folks? I'm going to give some plug outs. I'm not even looking in the room. I probably should be. I'm going to get, oh, hi, everybody. Tigerson. We got Matt Greenland. We got, oh, man, we got a lot. We got all the Bobby Lyons here. Let me go back up. We got Midgets of Toe. How you doing, Midgets of Toe? You've been in and on for the ride for a long time. Mark Doppelganger. I didn't even know you was around. I'm finna send you the link right now, Dop. Maybe we'll get into a little bit more than butt kissing. I'm sure Doppelganger will come on here and tell me how I could have had more people on, but I'll tell him in private the reasons not. In fact, I'll say it right now, just briefly. The reason there wasn't more people on the stream last night is because, hey, we were threatened by someone that can't do anything, and I knew it, but we were threatened, and this person was going around to people on the crew and saying how they were going to crash the stream and this and that and the other thing, just a typical troll. And I was like, hey, don't worry about it. I've got these 15-minute slots. And then somebody on the crew I won't name pointed out, well, if you're managing 15-minute slots, you won't even be able to be a part of the show. And I have to admit that even what I did last night, it made it seem like a dream and a haze. It was almost, I was there, but in a lot of ways I wasn't there. In other words, if I could have just, and Dop saved me, and then Dop went left and let some carry come in, and that was good. But man, when Dop's there, it's like if you have a headache and someone puts a cool cloth on your forehead to ease your forehead. That's kind of like doppelganger for me. So when he was there, I was actually able to pay attention more and not think about what they wanted me to pull up. And I was pulling up other YouTubers. Probably people saw that and like promoting them silently as we were speaking. These things were going on, and it did feel almost like I wasn't there. So look, here we go. Off topic again. Dop, if you want to swing on in, I did send you the link there in your Gmail. I sent it out to a couple others, but to be perfectly honest, the other ones I sent it out to, I didn't think they were going to show up anyway. The Britishers tired. I mean, I hope everyone realizes I not only feel honored because I was, hey, Dop, there he is. I not only feel honored today, Doppelganger, because
hello stream.
I was looking today, Dop, and trying to find a stream where Sargon, I almost said the mighty Sargon of Akkad, Britishers getting into my head here. When Sargon was there, and I can't find one 5 hours long. I feel, and I've got a lot of feedback, and I take it all into consideration. You know me, Dop. Most of it I let roll down my back like water down a duck. But from some folks like yourself and others, of course, I take that into consideration. But I must say, whatever we did last night, we not only got Sargon to chill out and hang out for 5 hours and then turn the light on so you could see him later on in the camera, just chilled out with us like folks. But Dank came on. Oh, man, I don't know. So here you are, maybe to give me constructive criticism or talk about something. I'm ready to hear it.
Well, yeah, I've been talking with people throughout the stream, and basically a few people were kind of disappointed that they didn't get to ask questions. I believe at least some of them got on later on, right?
Conscious Caracal was the only one, and remember, Dop, I brung you on, and thankfully from the rest of the crew, because I told them in the beginning, I was like, all right, no doppelganger. It's okay, but you got to understand, he's like my producer. If I don't let him on, I feel like I'm not being faithful to somebody that's been with me from the beginning. So the answer to that was, well, we've had these threats of the stream being crashed and we don't know. And I said, well, I'll be honest with y'all, Dop. I'm being very transparent with you. I said, I'll be honest with y'all. If anyone was going to do it and mastermind something like that, it would probably be Doppelganger. But I don't think he would do that in this situation. So you were there. Conscious Caracal were there, and I dropped the ball on MC and Cabbage. I have to say it on air. Cabbage is calling me all kinds of names and he don't believe me, and he don't have to believe me. But Dop, I was supposed to get them and Schmeckel on when we had an hour and a half left, which would have been a guess for me.
Yeah.
But by that time, I was 3 sheets to the wind, and I dropped the ball, man. I can't say it enough times. In fact, I'm not gonna say it anymore because I do feel bad about that.
Shit happens when you are having fun, right?
Yeah, I believe so. But I'll say this, now that the scare's out of the way, and I want your opinion on this, Dop. What I said was, hey, what if somebody does crash the stream? I would kick them out. Do you think that Sargon would like be offended or leave if somebody came on and was like, hey, Sargon, you suck, or hey, this sucks dick, and then left? I mean, got kicked out. I don't think that would have affected it negatively at all.
Frankly, I don't think so. He's been on the internet for far too long to be bothered by small insults. Also, I never got any impression from him that he particularly cares about trolls. Again, He's been on the internet forever.
Yeah, there's no way. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say in hopefully an artful way is you live and you learn. And I already in my heart knew how it would turn out, and it did turn out that way. But there's other people around me. Everybody knows who it is, so I'm not going to go through the list. The folks that you've seen there, minus Holly in the very beginning, that, when people are DMing them on Twitter and making these wild threats and saying how they're such and so. And look, I'm not going to get in much into it deeper than that, Dop, because you know who I'm talking about. And I don't even have a problem with this person. I mean, I just figured out very early on that they were, full of it. And I've lived my life according to that since then. but boy, they're full of it and have went on and did all this, made, I mean, and I can see people being nervous about Sargon being on. I was nervous for a different reason. You know what it was, Dop? I didn't want to talk the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
Did I do okay on that? I'm looking for a compliment from you online here on air. Did I do all right? Did I shut up enough, or what should I have done?
Wait a second. What the fuck?
I don't know. I'm trying to exercise the quiet thing now, but you know how much I love dead air.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, perfect.
Sorry. Okay, so I believe I was muted, and something went wrong with my other monitor, and I can't see shit. So basically, what was the question? Please say again.
Oh, I was just kind of looking for a backslap from you. I felt last night like I was very restrained. In fact,
right.
So much that a couple times I came in with questions. It was mentioned to me, and it's true. I asked about North Korea, and it was at the wrong time, and I swung at it and missed, man. When I brought up North Korea, if you remember, Sargon was like, I don't really give a shit about North Korea. I could have talked about Syria all night. And I was like, oh, because I was with, I won't say you, but a lot of people were saying, hey, enough about Syria. And to me, mate, it was a little old on that. But apparently him and the Brit could have talked about it all freaking night.
So basically, I think you did all right. Let's not forget that your first duty is to your viewers, actually, not to Sargon. Sargon is a guest. He will come and he will go. But the viewers are your team primarily. So in that respect, you did good. You did good by pushing him on the North Korea subject and other such.
Man, that is actually a beautiful thing you just said. And something I need to get through my head is, we're trying to line up Not Gay Jared from Crowder, where I'm trying to get Crowder on, and I'm not getting any response from him whatsoever. But if I did get Crowder, I'm sure it would only be 15 minutes. But like you said, Dop, I shouldn't change anything if Steven Crowder comes on because it's Steven Crowder. I should stay the same so that the people that come here are entertained in the way they're used to.
Yeah, exactly. Because the guests we get are here to entertain the viewers and maybe to have some fun on their own. Why not? That would be good just as well. And here's to hoping that we will be getting even better with subsequent guests.
I'm sure if you hang in there, bro, because I'm telling you one thing, Dop, the next big guest, unless you got something to do, I should have just let Carrie in there. Because when you left, I felt like I was a blind man, but I had my stick. And then when you left, I felt like somebody snatched my fucking stick out of my hand. And all of a sudden I'm there and groping in the dark. So I would much rather it, because Nachi Free will be on next time. You are the one that found him. He'll be on this coming Monday. And, I would much rather it if you were there, because you pipe in when it's necessary, or if I prod you, you're very humble, you're very polite, and you are the info man in this info war as far as I'm concerned.
Well, basically, I have my own sources for getting people, and I have my own reasons for doing the way I do it. And as for questions and being the guy, I had 3 questions really, actually. One of them from MC. I think it would be pretty good as a less serious and more entertaining question. Did you get around to asking it? It was about the Bronze Sword video that Sargon did.
You're asking me about it?
Yeah. Was the question asked during the stream?
I was just looking over here at Conscious Caracal's little tweet to me. So you're saying which one of his videos?
Sargon did, like in 2015, I believe, a video about forging a bronze sword. Basically.
Oh yeah. And I'm not sure, he did a steel one too. You can go look at. In fact, just type in Sargon of Akkad at the forge, and he has weapons that he has made himself. And I'll tell you this: in England, Britannia, you can't own a firearm, but I dare you break into Sargon of Akkad's house, you fools. He will cut you in half with a sword he made with his own hands. And I do respect him for that. He has weaponized, and they're beautiful pieces of art, Dop, but the things that he's made, I've watched, I think I did see the bronze one too, to be honest. But I know I've seen him at the forge twice, and there may be more than that out there. So go check that out. What I'll say is Sargon is what I would call a Renaissance man.
Yeah, and let's not forget that all the conquests of ancient times, like the Sargon of Akkad, the actual guy, the Roman Empire, the Greek, they all were being fought with bronze weapons and bronze armor. So it's actually pretty mighty weapon. And yeah, good luck to anybody who tries to assault Sargon in his own house/castle.
And we do know how, or the ziggurat, however it may be, we do know that the Greeks were defeated by the Romans for a couple reasons, but one of the main reasons is the Greeks used bronze and the Romans used iron. They were the great iron
Right.
monarchy of Rome.
Iron at some point. By the way, we have
Yep.
we have a question on this from our audience. Who was the girl from Green Party? Could you please
Holly,
expand on Holly?
listen. In fact, let me do this really quick. Dop, I sent out, because I was going to do a shorty, but my wife, my grandpa, that is my wife's father, just came up to visit. He's 93, mate.
Whoa.
He drives 100 miles in his minivan to come up here alone. His wife just passed away about 3 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, don't be sorry. She was 90 when she passed. It was, listen, when these old folks die, because I'm the community that I'm in, they take good care of their health. I'm not a good example of that. And they usually live to be, if you die before you're 90, you're kind of scoffed at. But when a person has lived for 93 years, and in fact, in a lot of cases, 100, 104, I'm thinking about Poppy, I'm thinking about these folks that I know that live to be centurions, centenarians, whatever you want to call it. It's a celebration, Dop. It really is. It's not like, oh, boo-hoo, grandpa passed away. And don't get me wrong, I will, when this grandpa, I wish I could say his name, because what a great man. When this grandpa passes, there'll be a couple silver tears stream down my trackless face. But as soon as those tears fall, Dop, I will remember the mighty man that he was, the lover of freedom, the independent individual that carved out his niche in the world, that took what he wanted and what he needed for his family, whether or not it was easy. And there won't be enough room for tears, because even saying that, my nipples are hard and my heart is swollen up with pride, It's the way it is. So it depends. Right. When a young person dies from a drug overdose, yeah, I cry and I'm sad. But when an old man or an old lady that lived a remarkable life passes on into that fog of mist of whatever it is that we go into, I feel so much joy, and I can't wait to join them someday.
Mercy. Yeah, it makes perfect sense, because given that they have lived a full life, it really is a good time to actually get the rest in peace part of the life. Oh, and we have Britisher on board. Hello.
I see you there, Brett. So I'm going to do this very quickly and then let Brett go. This is good that you came in. I didn't think you were going to show up today, mate, but I've got to send you a link. Not out of obligation, just because, no, out of obligation. That's why I send you a link. No, so I'm just going to do this very quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is Day is Dead. I will, as soon as I'm done, believe me, I will be copying out these links and pasting them out in the chat. So if you're here and you see somebody that you dig and that you wanted to, you wanted to take note of, just hang in there. And as soon as I'm done with this, probably in about a minute and a half, I will be shooting these out in the same order that I'm reading them now. So this is Day is Dead. If you enjoy her new video, Crack in the Shell, featuring Franz, I don't even know what that is, Brett. Franz, somebody, is actually, say it again.
Parlemerd.
Man, these kids are way too smart for me. Then go check that out. And if you like it, please give her a thumbs up. Tell her she's beautiful. Tell Palamad there, I want to call him Grumpo, but tell Grumpo that he's badass too, and that you hope to see some more good characters, whatever it is you want to tell him. Hopefully you'll be nice. Next, I will say, check out Amanda Wolfchild. If you want to see some awesome collaborations and you want to see some awesome takedowns, you've seen her on the show last night, folks. Nobody can bust them like Amanda Wolfchild. And I would say, in my own way, she does it in a kind of a nice way. Someone just specifically, Doppelganger, asked about Holly Seelinger, the Zune Politicon, the political animal. And here she is. She not only has a lot of wonderful political content, but she also does this grave digging. And you can see the red lines there. I shouldn't probably show too much of that, because you can figure out which ones I've watched here recently, which ones I'm still yet to click the button on. But she does a lot of stuff around Maine, and you can really get a feel for what it was like where Stephen King grew up. She went to the same elementary school as Stephen King. Here's somebody I've got to say, I can't say too much about. This is Nachi Free. a great individual that is absolutely on the other side of the political fence as I am. He is a left-wing, but not a left-wing lunatic. He is a liberal person that loves freedom. He hates religion. He thinks the Pope is a dope. And if you're if you think that someone giving you their opinion on religion is blasphemy, well, then go take a long walk off a short pier and stay away from Nazi's channel because he don't want you there anyway.
And he
This
will
is
be entering, and he also will be entering the T-shirt contest with Sargon, because he's a very talented illustrator, Nazi free.
Sure is, Brett. And I'm going to show a couple illustrations from him here just as soon as y'all get to rolling. He is good, isn't he, brother?
Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Hi,
good
Carrie.
morning.
I'm almost done. And you know what,
Hello,
Carrie?
Carrie.
Next time I'll have your channel in this lineup. This is the Conscious Caracal. He sure does dislike the Young Turks. He may be joining us here in a minute or two. I'm not sure how long this will go on, Caracal. So if you missed us today, I'm so glad you got to be on with Sargon last night. What you said to him moved me near to tears. It may have been the 5 beers and 2 shots of scotch that I had, but it was emotional. Falcon Millennial, another little-known YouTuber, 39 subscribers. Listen, if you're there in the chat right now and you haven't subscribed to my bro, Millennial Falcon, and you can stomach a racist that loves his shotguns and whatnot, just swing on by and hit the sub button if you care to. It's a wonderful waste of time. And I was going to save the best for last, and he's on here. And Brett, I didn't know you were going to show up. I'm not doing this to embarrass you. This was already set up in my plans. The Britisher. What a body of work the man has. Again, on the exact opposite. Well, and I don't know. I think maybe he's a little more centered, and I'm not just saying that because he's here. But he is more left-leaning than I may be. But even as a mate of his and speaking to him in the real world, one-on-one, he's such a hard nut to crack that I honestly couldn't even tell you who he voted for last time. So that said, go check out his body of work. He set himself up wonderfully after he hosted Sargon to have something great for you to go and to stay, if you wanted to, probably for 4 days and watch an extremely excellent amount of content. So here, I'm wrapping it up, folks, and you can tell my announcer voice is getting a little weak. Last, but surely not least, the man that saved the live stream last night and forced Sargon of a God against his will to stay for another hour and 20 minutes. Count Dankula, terror of the Jews, feared by all the Britons, Highlander, sweeping down from the north, giving his very life for freedom. I can't say enough about Dankula, Brett. So that said, those are all my shout outs. And if I do much more, you got to check out Gary Memes, folks. This is just his bro. I tried to get him to get this guy, Gary Memes, to come on the live stream. But even though he gets him on his videos, Mr. Memes is a little shy. And I don't think he'll be doing any live streams soon. So thanks for bearing with me, folks. I know that was a lot of plugs, but I get a lot of help. I would not be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for specifically the Britisher. Specifically. And then I could go down the line and I could say, of course, I wouldn't be here where I'm at right now if it wasn't for Dankula being our first live stream and if it wasn't for Razorfist and blah, 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 and keep going and going. But as I stand right now, not wearing a muscle shirt after working and flexing and all this stuff and do these different things, I do have to give the credit to the Britisher. So now I'm going to tweet this stuff out and shut up for 10 minutes.
Well, there's one reason, because I hadn't really intended to come on. I had you in my earphones as I was kind of working away on my PC quite happily. And then, of course, you did it, didn't you? You said the Romans beat the Greeks because the Greeks had bronze and the Romans had iron.
Oh,
and
mercy.
that immediately brought me on here. You awakened my inner nerd.
Do we call you now correct the record?
Correct the record. You beat me to it.
Well, how shall we say, my inner Sargon awoke, and I needed to come on. Because, of course, by that time, the Greeks were using iron too. The reason the Romans defeated the Greeks was because the Greeks used the phalanx system, and the Romans used the legionary system. And the legionary system proved much more adaptable than the phalanx system. And there was sort of one or two particular key battles, and the Romans kind of proved that their system was superior, and that was the end of the Greeks.
Well, quickly tell us, because I know the difference between.
May I expand on that?
Yeah, if you could tell the difference between a phalanx in
I've
the
been
legionary
reading
system.
recently a little bit about Roman legion, and from what I gathered, they different from previous army organizations in that they basically created combined arms. Every legion or most of the legions had both basic swordmen or spearmen, but also had some detachment of cavalry and of some heavy armor. Right? Is that right?
Yes, that would be right as such in a legion. Yes, but the particular artistry of the legion in that case was that it could operate in the field as a kind of articulated unit. That basically each one of its units could think for itself and operate for itself, whereas a phalanx is just basically a rigid line, and it has to hold that line. So a unit within that phalanx can't suddenly spot a weakness in the other side and act accordingly, because it must continue to hold that line.
Well, and there's also something that happens in a legionary where they only fight for 1 minute and they get a 9-minute break. They never really did perfect that with the phalanx.
That is actually modern theory. We don't know that. Basically, that has been.
I'm shutting up now, Mr. Nerd. I thought I knew everything about Romans.
That was worked out through experimental archaeology, but we do not actually. We have no record that shows us that is the way the Romans fought. But it would make sense if you think of it, that they would kind of relieve the front line and change through the lines like that.
But it also ties in nicely with what we've just said, in that they were able to maneuver on the battlefield. So basically, they would be able to swap out teams or groups, whereas
the key battle between the Greeks and the Romans was actually between the Macedonians. So basically, the heirs of Alexander. And the Roman army, and as they were coming down the slope, because it was uneven ground, there was a slight gap. They couldn't quite hold their line, and a tribune of the Roman army, so not the chief commander, a tribune, spotted that gap and immediately led his units into that gap, and that was the end of the Greek army. The moment you break a phalanx, it cannot defend itself.
Yeah, so basically we have, to use a modern example or parallel, World War I tactics with trenches versus World War II tactics with blitzkrieg and maneuver warfare, right?
Yeah. They had kind of evolved. They had evolved the means of fighting as opposed to using a different metal. It's true that most of what we would call ancient Greek history, we would kind of see as, Bronze Age and stuff like that. But when we're actually talking of the Romans defeating the Greeks, it wasn't because the Romans used iron or, sort of a primitive steel, and the Greeks used bronze. All sides used exactly the same metals. It was merely the systems that were competing with each other.
And we all know how it all ended.
Yes, the Greeks effectively defeated themselves, yes, by inviting the Romans in.
We ran carry off with our Greek stuff. I got to say that, look, no, I won't say it now. Hey, Brett, see my head, right?
Yes.
I'm telling you, watch it, bro. Over the days, you can see the difference in my hand. I'll give it, because a lot of people are like, you don't look Jewish. I'm like, well, it's the middle of winter. Come talk to me in August, and you'll be like, you don't look white. Anyway, no, it's stoking me up because in the end, Brett, I learned a lot last night. I really did. I got to be a little more prepared because I thought, well, I'll just shoot in some things. And I had 2 questions, and both my questions seemed to have sucked with Sargon there. He was like, oh, well, North Korea. I really don't give a shit about North Korea, Mr. Oga. I found myself at the end like going, this morning, I should say, at the end of downloading it and watching parts of it again, I should have let you 2 talk about Syria until the cows came home, man.
Well, it did help that I had watched that clip of his, and it just blew me away when I watched that clip of his. I actually sent him a direct message after I had watched that clip. And I basically told him, this is no lie. I said to him, once we've taken over the BBC, you can run Panorama. The Panorama program on the BBC was kind of, it isn't really what it was anymore today, but once upon a time they were famous for their sort of political documentaries and you know, prize-winning, sorry about this, prize-winning researched political stories. And it really is what Sargon did there in that story. It's really, truly breathtaking. 1.5 hours of solid researched material. Where on earth he found all this material is beyond me. I just don't know how he did it.
Yeah, this is probably one of the keys for his race to fame, in that he actually does great research. I'm quite curious about his research team. I can see him actually doing all the research on his own. So basically, I kind of envy him the channels or the means of finding all the good stuff, and would like to learn a bit more. I wonder if he would be up to sharing some of the insights into it at some point.
Well, I get the impression that he is a one-man operation, but I could imagine that due to his prominence by now, he will get a lot of people tipping him off to some things.
Well, yeah, but it's just like, I think you've done a couple videos, Brett, where I mean, I may be wrong, but I watched so many people. Haven't you had people bring your attention to things and be like, hey,
yes,
you might want
yes, I have. People have sort of pointed things out to me, and I think
imagine
because,
that,
of course, he is so much larger.
Right.
He must get quite a bit of that. But yeah, no, that Syrian story just blew me away when I watched it. It was just so on the ball, and everything had a source. Everything was, this is how this came to light. This is what this Turkish politician said on Turkish television, and things like that. And you just go, you know, how does some guy in Britain get to hear about what some Turkish parliamentarian said on Turkish television?
Man, he's a news junkie. I can't imagine that, because I spend a little time doing this and then running my life. If you heard him last night, he said about 3 or 4 times, he just wants to quit this and go make video games. People probably see Sargon and think, oh, he's a glory hound. No, he's doing this right now because A, it's his livelihood. It's his job. I don't know how else to say it. And let's face it, no matter how cool your job is, even if you've made your hobby your job, one day you have to wake up and go do it, whether you want to or not. Then it becomes a job. So he does a lot of research, and I personally think that his research team is what we're just talking about. It's the 600,000 subs and trolls that aren't subbed and everything else that shoots this gigantic. And then you see him, he was pulling out David Rockefeller's biography last night. The guy, without sucking up too much,
memory.
He is a remarkable individual, period.
Britisher, do I gather it correctly that basically you, in also many words, called Sargon a better journalist than all the CNNs of the world? Because he's one guy and he does.
Yeah, I mean, he does seem to, you know, with whatever sort of people who are in his chats and whatever, who must kind of point him to things. Yes, he is remarkable in his dedication to be able to put a very complicated story together.
So this realization has just given me very positive shivers in that, well, this really spells death knell to the mainstream media of the old.
Well, yes, but you know, you have to consider how large the mainstream media is. You also have to understand that plenty of the sources of people like Sargon are in fact still the mainstream media. And sorry, something's distracting me here. No, not only are plenty of things the mainstream media that actually act as the source, but at the same time, you would need several Sargons. You know, you would really need a body of Sargons. You would need a little army of them before you could really say that the mainstream media is being supplanted.
That's a good point, but then again, I think we're actually witnessing the rise of various Sargons. For better or worse, we have all the Styxes and people like you, which are rising pretty fast.
To it. That's what I was going to say. I was out getting a fresh beer and I was going to have a little smoke, which I'm going to go do right as soon as I say this. Britisher, we got, go ahead, Dop, because you were saying it probably better than I'm going to. So, Tildeer. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on. We have an army. I just wish more people would listen to you, Britisher, you, and more people would listen, because I'm saying this. I can say that and not be a hypocrite, can I, brother? When I say I wish more people would listen to you.
I'll be right back. I just need to step away here. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead. So that you know, and Dop, I can see that there is an army of, man, and look, I've kissed his butt so much in the last days. I'm just going to say he's just a dude. Yes, his research is very great, but we have an army of them. Doppelganger, you are a Sargon, if that's the label we're going to give him right now. You're out there fighting the good fight in whatever way that you can right now. So, you know, I just wish people would listen up.
There is something that I've been recently talking through on a different stream. Basically, the question was raised: how do we actually finance all this grassroots journalism? Because let's face it, all the research is good and all the streaming is good, but in the end, if we are to supplant successfully the mainstream media, there needs to be some reasonably flow of money involved, and it has to be kind of predictable. So right now we have Patreon. I believe that it's not the best model we could get. Probably, I believe we can get better. It's just the matter of actually finding a better platform and monetizing on it.
Well, and for me, I think, you know, I won't have a Patreon on my channel. However, Nazi Free does, Day is Dead does, and there's people that do. I'm not sure if the British ever will or not. That'll be up to him. What I will be doing is I make soap. I really do have a soap business. I'll be selling bars of soap. We will have streams where there'll be auction streams, and we'll have shirts. Nazi Free's working on a shirt for myself. He's working on some stuff for other people I don't want to mention right now. And we'll have our little store. And for lack of a better person to compare it to, Dop, like, you know, I've got some of his guff right here, because I do use, I've said it, I think you were the one of the people laughing at me, I do use iodine, and they have, this is Dr. Group's iodine. I just bought it from Alex to give him an extra $5 in his pocket, because I do appreciate what he does, as crazy as he may be. So what I want to do is not just go and do the money bomb, because I'll use Alex for the same example. Money bomb, please give me some money. I owe my old lady $1 million, so I'm going to tell you I'm going to do it in production and give me $1 million. He made like $1.5 million in 3 days. And I didn't see nothing change. And I don't like that. But this I love. If I can help somebody out and they can help me out, what synergy? I mean, what is better than that, brother?
Yeah, you put it very nicely. From talking with various people on the various streams, and both in chats and on streams themselves, I get this impression that quite a lot of people that are active, even if small time on YouTube, are people with at least some entrepreneurial history. So those are people that actually do understand, do get the need for steady money, flow of money, for self-promotion, and for building a network of friendly channel or friendly personas around them. I think we have enough of such people in this wider society to actually be able to build it all grassroots and have our own very good answer to the dying mainstream media.
I love that grassroots word too. That's one of my, next to synergy, it's probably my favorite word, because you can't get better than the grassroots growing.
Yeah, and even if you look back a few days to that AB girl who was on one of our live streams, she actually is a small-time entrepreneur. She has her own laundry service, and that gives her both a degree of financial independence, but also gives her a more, let's say, varied and advanced, even out there to say, a look on various subjects.
I liked her. I was looking for her now. I just invited MC in. He's busy right now. I'm telling you, I got to say it one more time. Cabbage Patch is a bastard, so I don't really feel terrible in my heart. In fact, in my heart, because we troll each other so much, I'm kind of hoping he thinks I'm lying when I say I did. I meant to send him the link and forgot. But MCJK, damn it, man. I think he's listening right now, and I sent him a link, and he's busy saving the world as usual, like he does every damn day of his life. And I really wanted him in, because you know MCJK, Dop. He would have came in like this. come on, Sargon, what you got, baby? What you got about Syria? And he would have actually delivered some, you know, some punches to a guy that can take it. And Sargon can take. That's the thing. Everybody, I'm getting a little adamant, but I got to say this. In my humble opinion, Mr. Avocad could have took anything we threw at him and handled it just like the man he is. That's just, you know, that's it.
Maybe with the exception of MC. I've been talking with MC quite a lot on after stream parties. And man, I really appreciate the depth and variety of his historical knowledge.
The guy is
simply
smartest
awesome
on this channel ever.
If anybody from our team could perhaps surprise Sargon with something, that would be MC.
I couldn't agree more. And after streams also, and you know, we can't talk much because he don't want nobody to know who he is or what he does. But what the man does and where he's been and the things he is still doing, he said he's in his 60s and he sounds like he has the virility of a 40-year-old man yet.
Yeah,
you know,
he's a bright mind and he's making great connections between subjects. So yeah, by all means, I wish we had him.
Yeah, and I would have liked to gotten Huckleberry on too, but he was actually doing a stream at the same time. Huckleberry is another one that when he's on my and here it is. I've got a soft spot for men that have done what I dream about and shake in fear when I dream about it. And that is they've gone out and fought. You call it defending freedom, whatever. I don't care what they're doing. I don't care if they're defending freedom or if they're empire building. They're out there doing something that I humbly am not willing to do. The Britisher is back with a link.
Okay, what have we here?
Let's see. I'm gonna just screen share it without a preempt here, Brett, because I know that you got some good here. It says Trump backs down on border wall. Oh man, I don't even know. I'm done.
That sucks.
Well, and I mean, I'm so sick of this Britisher. And everybody was like, he's God's gift to everything, and it's going to be the end of everything that's bad and the beginning of everything good. And look, he's turning out to. Ugh.
Well, at the moment,
Look,
he's basically this is a kind of budgetary thing. At the moment, it's sort of a budgetary thing, so he could still, at a later date, try to introduce it when it comes
he said
to.
He was going to get Mexico to pay for it. Where's the budgetary thing?
Yeah, I agree. But yes, I'm just trying to be a bit nuanced and basically show that.
Well, but Britisher, I voted for the son of a bitch, so I can't be nuanced. One of the reasons I voted for him is because he said my tax bracket would be gone. That my money, I could just keep it. He said that many, many times. I was like, yeah, it didn't happen and not happening. Excuse after excuse. He also said border security, and it ain't happening. And I want to see border security with the North, mate. I'm right here on the border of Canada. They do whatever they want.
But yeah, I thought you might appreciate that link.
Yeah, in fact, we can talk about this a bit if we want, Dop and Brett, because listen, man.
Okay, let us actually dive into the article for a second, because what it says is that Donald Trump has indicated that he will ditch plans to find cash. What does that even mean? Does it mean that some bills have been signed? No, not at all. All it means is that Donald Trump has made a verbal maneuver. Whatever comes out of it, we shall see.
Yes, we're getting a lot of verbal maneuvering recently, haven't we?
Exactly, that's the point. We all know that everything he does is part of some negotiation, usually even 2 or 3 of negotiations going at the same time.
I didn't know he was negotiating with me as his constituency, Dop. That's what is hurting me in my heart.
See, I think the key sentence here, I think, is Democrats had threatened to block the bill if money was earmarked for the wall, so its omission may now avert a government shutdown.
Is it really, or sorry, would it really be all that bad if government shutdown actually occurred? I believe that the support for Democrats isn't all that high right now.
Man, this is killing me because Kellyanne Conway's in on this too now, Britt, and I love Kellyanne. You've seen a video I did about her, and now she's saying, you know, the president's close advisor, Kellyanne Conway, said funding for the wall would be left out of a budget measure that must pass by Friday. Be left out. In other words, they say it must be passed by Friday, but they're leaving it out. I mean, is this just a scam? Did they scam me, Britisher? Did they just lie to me?
To be honest, you know, it is beginning more and more to look as if, you know, many of these promises might eventually end up not meaning much.
Man, the son of a bitch was supposed to be the next Ronald Reagan, and he's not a scab on Ronald Reagan's dead ass.
You may recall what I said in the week that was, and funnily enough, I did not get a lot of criticism for that.
Well, no, because everybody's waking up to it, mate.
When I basically said, Donald, right now you look a bit of a weasel, and the people around you look like weasels. That basically, a lot of these apparently firmly held beliefs and I am with the people, all that rhetoric seems to be very quickly going nowhere. And one can see sort of the very hardened Trump supporters are sort of doing the splits, trying to tell us that he's actually playing 4D chess, and this is all part of a brilliant plan in which eventually he will emerge the mastermind.
Well, I didn't know he was playing chess with me, though, mate. I'm keep going back to that because I feel like I listened to every rally for almost 50 days. In other words, I listened to a rally, and then the last day he ended up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where my wife was born. I wished I would have known that he was going to be there with spur of the moment. I listened to all 5 rallies he had on the last day. And right now, what I'm coming up with, brother, is lie. I'm going down the checklist. Lie, bullshit, 4D chess, bullshit, rhetoric, lie, mother effing piece of garbage. It just told me what I wanted to hear, so I'd vote for him. And that makes me a little sick inside.
Yeah, in the end, it appears that perhaps the man who wasn't a politician turned out to be another politician.
And was to begin with. Yeah, I know I'm beating it in, but I really feel like a personal connection with the man. And here's someone that might bring another side to this. MC, I'm so glad you found time in your busy day to come by. I'll say it one more time now that you're here to you personally. I dropped the ball on you and Cabbage. Y'all were supposed to be here in the last hour in my mind, and I would have been the only one knowing y'all were coming. And probably why I dropped the ball, I was drunk. I was on a drunk, not just from the beer, because I only had 5 beers, a couple shots, which is a lot. But I was drunk from just Dankula and everybody showing up, man. I was like, oh, I was basking in the glory. It was so great.
That's okay. Dankula was much better than I would be anyway, so.
Oh, no. I love Dank, but he's not out. He is saving the world in a different way. I would say y'all are peers.
Well, he's under a lot more stress than I am. I can tell you that right now. I feel for that guy. But we're 100 days into a Trump presidency. And he is not a dictator. Okay? And he is dealing with a hostile Congress, regardless of whether or not you want to believe it. All right? Because he is against most of what the people stand for, because people have been misled, not so much by Trump, but by their quote unquote representatives as to what they are, including my own representative, who's recently come out against the wall when she was all for it beforehand. Okay, so the idea that Trump can then wave a magic wand and have all these things happen, all right, it doesn't work that way.
Well, it doesn't.
And when it comes to a government shutdown, no, hold on. When it comes to a government shutdown in the U.S., Britisher, all right, I can tell you right now, nothing terrifies the current Republicans in Congress today more than a government shutdown. They're absolutely terrified of it.
Well, they can't blame anyone else other than themselves.
Well, they need to learn that it's nothing to be terrified for. They are so terrified of the mainstream media blaming them for people not getting the services that they need that they absolutely will not countenance a government shutdown. The average people hold
the majority of in everywhere, then you can't blame anyone other than yourself for a government shutdown.
Actually, the problem is that certain actions by the government require a larger majority that the Republicans hold right now. So the minority opposition actually is able to block at least some things, some major things like, I don't know, budget maybe.
Oh yeah, anything that has to do with a budget, any kind of monetary system right now can be blocked by the Democrats in the Senate. All they need is 40 votes.
In a way, this harkens back actually to the recent announcement in UK about the snap election, in that I believe Theresa May simply wants to have a larger majority so she can easier govern in all the matters, to avoid opposition basically having
the functional word there being easier.
Yeah. I understand that there are certain risks and downside to that.
Yeah,
Don't
but
get
the
me
other
wrong.
thing about the U.S., you got to remember, just because somebody has a member of the party, all right, like Trump, okay, so he's a Republican, but you guys look at the Republican as if he's like, okay, a Tory or a Labor or one of the other parties.
Yes,
In a
but
two-party system, there's a lot more variance within the
Yes,
parties
but
themselves.
MC, in order to put it very bluntly, did he say, "I will try to convince my fellow Republicans to help me build a wall," or did he say, "I will
Well,
build a wall"?
there's rhetoric when you're saying I'm going to be the president and this is where I'm going to lead.
Yes, but that's called a
Okay.
promise.
Well, and he's still got how much time to fulfill that promise?
Yes,
7
but
more
it's not
years.
looking good, is it?
It's 100 days into his presidency.
Well, and I wanted
It's
to
not
keep
even a first year into the presidency, and you've already got Ogre worry that there's absolutely nothing that's
MC,
going to come
MC.
out of it.
MC, is anything happening regarding Hillary Clinton?
We don't know that.
Man, I've got this
we
whole
don't
thing
know
here. I'm not going to
Hillary, look,
bombard
see,
MC
case
with
against
this.
Hillary
those
is
are
not-
weasel. I'm sorry, those are weasel words. Is
No,
anything
they're not.
happening?
You can't.
No,
What do you
they are.
expect to do? What do you expect to do? First of all, you had a previous Justice
No,
Department.
I'm sorry, but MC, the answer is not. We don't know that. The answer is no. Nothing is happening regarding.
No,
Hillary.
I don't.
Actually,
I
the
disagree
No
with
one
you.
in
You don't know
their
what's
right
happening possibly
mind
behind the
believes
scenes.
that Hillary Clinton is going to be arrested and charged.
The first thing we would actually expect regarding Hillary is that Trump, right after the election, would not say openly that "let bygones be gone." This is what he said. He basically dispensed all her faults.
How can he? Let me ask a question. How can he immediately charge Hillary?
Look, we are
Especially
not.
when with a Justice Department filled with people, all right, that have been doing everything they can to backdoor him, that have been going out of their way
How do we
to
know that?
release information on him.
How do we know that?
We know that because that's how the press has been getting this information. That's what they've been
How do we-
saying. All this
how
leaking
do
to the
we know
press.
that?
It didn't just come out of the air.
How do we know that? No, what I
What do you
mean
mean?
is, what I'm saying is, if you are playing the game of we don't know that about Hillary Clinton, then we also don't know that about the Justice Department. So
No,
if
we
you-
know that the Justice
hang on,
Department is
MC,
full of
just
those
a sec,
people. You
just
just
a
have
sec.
a bunch of
Now, see,
of media
you can
reports that have
shout,
come out where they've admitted to the fact
MC,
that
calm
hold on, Britisher. There was just a report yesterday.
MC, calm down. Seriously. If you,
Matt, I just got to mute you until that echo goes away. And carry on, gentlemen. Look, no one's going to probably convince anyone fully right now, but I got to say this, MC, that I love your adamacy, and you have a reason to come on because I was being so adamant before. But it's not the Britisher I am looking, or anyone else. But I am glad to hear your point of view, because I don't want to think he just lied to me. I go back to what we were talking about. MC, do you think that he did really want to do this stuff and then got taken in the back room and was told, well, listen, Mr. Trump, even though you believe that you're the president right now, we're the real masters of this shit?
I think that one of the things that people have forgotten is the fact that the legislative branch is an independent branch when it comes right down to it. And if you've got to do something with legislation, it's going to be difficult, especially in the climate that we're currently in. Because like it or not, most of the people in the legislature at this time are not people that Trump can rely on. They are very virulently anti-Trump. They hate the man.
but he was very good at deals.
You can be very good at deals, but once again, that's a business issue versus a government issue. You've got to now
Yes, but
figure out a
no,
way to deal with it from the
The
government
reason
standpoint.
I am saying that is because that's what he told everyone. He was very good at deals. He was going to make deals. It's what he's good at.
All right, but
Apparently,
the problem
that's not really happening, is it?
well, the problem with making deals is you got to have people on both sides that are willing to make a deal, and he has
Yeah,
no
this
one to
is
make.
actually-
And he currently has no one to make a deal with.
This is actually a great point, because through all this time, the right wing has been painted as this crazy, extreme, or even margin fascist or whatever. So basically, for everybody on the left, making any deals is pretty much unthinkable.
And look, this is all good. I would say Caracal's here, and we're going to continue this for a few minutes for sure. But
Good evening,
the whole
lads.
point of this was to gloat
Good
a wee
evening.
bit. And I got to say, Caracal, you just strolled on last night. I had no idea what you were going to say. As far as I knew, you were going to be like, Mr. Vakad, you're a moron. And you really came on with a really classy comment. And bro, it was an honor to have you on. I wish a couple other people could have joined. But I'm glad that you were one that was able to.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. No, it's
Okay.
still so fucking surreal. It's still sinking in the fact that I was on a stream with
And
Sargon.
we'll gloat in a minute. You just heard MC. He don't want to go this way. He wants to stick where we're at. So we're going to talk about this
Yeah, sure.
political
No problem,
stuff
man.
for a minute. And we'll go on to gloating and slapping backs in a minute or two.
No problem. Please carry on.
Okay, British, let me ask a question. You have a prime minister. Who
Yep.
chooses your prime minister?
Parliament does.
Okay, but that's not who chooses our president.
So
So when your president is with the president, okay, in your case, your legislative branch and your executive branch are unified because Parliament chooses the executive branch.
they choose the prime minister. The prime minister then chooses the rest of them.
Right, but it's still the executive branch. It's still chosen by them. They are unified in support for the leadership there. That's not how
Not
it goes. In the
necessarily. The
United
prime
States.
minister is capable of basically choosing his entire cabinet from the House of Lords if he should he want to do so.
Well, I mean, the president of the United States is capable of choosing all sorts of people for his cabinet as well.
But they
And
all
in the
need
case
to be
of Trump-
okayed. Yeah.
And in the case of Trump, did he choose strictly from government officials? No. In fact, in most of the primary cabinet
He got a
positions,
lot of people from
they are
Goldman
people
Sachs,
that
didn't
are
he?
not part of the political establishment.
He got a lot of people from Goldman Sachs, didn't he?
He had a couple from Goldman Sachs. He had a bunch of people from all over business. But he didn't have people from the establishment, the political establishment within the country. He only had a couple of people that
Clinton
were.
was getting a lot of money from Goldman Sachs. She wasn't getting money from the establishment.
Oh no, she got tons of money from the establishment. Where do you think that where she got most of her money to begin with?
I think you can see what I'm saying, can't you?
Well, no, I can see what you're saying to a point, but you're forgetting how the U.S. government is currently structured. You
No,
guys
this
are
has nothing
expecting
to
the
do-
president
I'm sorry, MC, but this has
within the United
nothing to do
States.
with
No.
government
You got to
structure.
understand something, Britisher.
Carry
The
on.
United States president does not have a unified government under him in any way, shape, or form.
This has nothing to do with it.
No, that has everything to do with it. It's
What?
not that.
This is deflection, MC, and you know it.
No, it's not.
Well, and even if it is, he's good at it. I would just say this. Let's look at it this way, MC. I want to make one clarification that even though Trump is elected kind of by a strange form of direct democracy we have in this elected republic, and the prime minister is elected by, because I've been looking into this, Brett, since if you remember about a month or two ago, I asked you, well, how does it work? Since then, I've been looking into your politics. It's similar but different. The House of Lords is still very confusing to me. But what it comes down to, and I think you know this, MC, this is clarify for everybody else, not to I'm not talking down to you, obviously, sir. But I'll say this. Before I say this, I'm going to say this. This is a debate. Everybody out here and like MC, this and the British or that. Look, these are two people with differing views, so grow the fuck up. Number two, even if the people don't directly elect, the British just have, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brett, the British just have a truer form of elected republic because they elect the MPs, the members of parliament, and then the MPs elect the prime minister. And that prime minister, if I'm not mistaken, reports only to the Queen at this point. But not really to her. I think that's ceremonial. So is that kind of
Yeah,
correct? I mean, if so, isn't that a more true form of republic, MC?
It's a truer form of democracy, not a republic.
Okay, but not direct democracy for the people. And Britisher, did I have that right? How the people elect the MPs and then the MPs elect
Yes,
prime,
and
the prime minister?
Each constituency elects its own MP. So basically, we don't select from a list. We don't have a list system. And that basically means we get what Sargon was speaking about yesterday. We get specific accountability so that you are not just a name on a party list. You
Yeah, and now
are
that I
specifically accountable to a particular constituency.
And now that I put a little water on that fire, I hope, I just got to say, MC, deflection aside or whatever aside, my question to you is this. Do you feel like President Trump, the man, Donald Trump, before, do you feel like he was outright telling me fibs? Or do you feel like now he's getting in there and he's finding out that there are hoops he has to jump through?
No, I think he's at a point now where he's trying to learn what the presidency can do and what the presidency can do, and whether or not he wants to sit up there and try and break the structure or not, and how to break the structure.
So he didn't know what he was talking about.
Well, no, he knows what he's talking about as far as what he wants to see happen.
Well, no,
But
I would say
but his idea of
folks, that would
but
be
his
good,
I-
because he wasn't a politician. He really shouldn't have known what he was talking about. In other words, I could sit up here right now and say,
no, but I mean, simply, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, if you say something that eventually it turns out, if you promise firmly, without any chance of compromise, you make it absolutely clear you are going to do A, B, and C, and then you come into power and you can neither do A, B, and C. You can then blame the system.
Days
you can blame
into
the system.
presidency
You can,
with a hostile Congress. You're
Can I
sitting
actually
trying to
finish any
uphold and
sentence?
saying that.
This is getting ridiculous.
no,
Please
let
go
the
ahead,
producer
Mark.
finish, and then MC could carry on. So you were saying if he was making promises, go ahead, Brett.
Well, no, I mean, if you cannot fulfill those promises, then I remember there was an episode of Yes, Prime Minister, or I think Yes, Minister, in which you actually had Sir Humphrey inform the minister that he lied, and the minister was quite put out. He said, "Well, I didn't know this was wrong. I didn't know." He said, "Well, no, but you misinformed the public. It doesn't really matter whether you specifically knew. You should have informed yourself. If you haven't informed yourself, if you were effectively giving the public a false impression, if you were giving Parliament a false impression, then whichever way you bend it, you are lying." And this, you can blame the system, you can blame this, you can blame that, but in the end, that is just partisan talk. In the end, what matters is you said A, and you're not giving any impression as if you will deliver A. And if that happens, then that is a lie, no matter who you seek to blame or whether you didn't know. Okay.
No, that's a good
Anyone want to
point.
say anything?
Well, yeah, I know Mark's got a middle road, but I bet MC wants to say something. If you want to, and then Doppel wants to take a middle road here on what we're speaking about. MC, I know you want to say something.
I'll go. I've been waiting.
Yeah.
Okay, you're saying he said X, Y, Z. Okay, he hasn't said I'm not doing any of this, has he? You're already calling him a liar. 100 days.
Actually,
into
MC, we were just looking at it. With all due respect, we were just looking at an article that says Kellyanne Conway says the president's close advisor, Kellyanne Conway, said funding for the wall would be left out of a budget measure that must pass Friday. So yes, they are actively not doing things they said they would do.
No, they're saying that he can't get it done in the next few days because there's a deadline that he can't meet along these lines. That's not saying that by the end of the summer, whether or not he has secured the funding in some other manner. He hasn't. Go ahead.
There is one thing that he did actually say quite prominently that he would do and hasn't done: the lock her up. That hasn't happened.
You guys are expecting something there that you got to understand what's going on internally.
No, I'm not saying if you agree or disagree with it, but he did promise that there would be an investigation. And as soon as he won, he just went, no, there wouldn't be. Now, whether you think it was right or wrong, that was a promise. And yes, rhetoric can be overblown.
That is not what he said.
Well, why
said
on
this-
every single rally did lock her up was a main part of it?
No. He did say that at the rallies. That's not what I'm saying. But he didn't say there wouldn't be an investigation on her. What he said was that he wasn't putting it as a priority.
but it hasn't been done. And if it was such an important thing,
You don't know. We don't know it hasn't been done or not.
if
Okay. And you have to understand, and this is what I was trying to get the Britisher to understand. Right now, he has got to go through and clean out the Justice Department before he can even think about trying to prosecute Hillary.
do you think he? Okay, let's just say that by the end of it, he hasn't done it. Will that have been a broken promise?
Yes, that would have been that will be a broken promise.
So if there is no progress on that, you will feel disappointed on that particular.
Oh, definitely. If I don't see movement by the end of next year, I'm going to be very upset.
And how do you know that? This is are you American, by the way?
Yes.
What is the state of the Justice Department? Does it actually need cleaning out?
Oh, it definitely needs cleaning out.
Go on, because the British justice system has a few flaws, but we roughly view it as
Right.
pretty good. How bad is the American one?
During we got to remember something. Obama had 8 years to put the people he wanted to in place in the Justice Department, and also to infest areas within the FBI. Just yesterday, you had Comey admit that he couldn't trust Loretta Lynch not to subvert him, which is why he chose not to charge her. And this
Do we have
came out in the
evidence of
press.
this?
All right.
But
Well, this came out in the press. It was reported.
I mean, this is all due respect. I shouldn't have done this, man. I invited a bunch of cool people on. Now they're talking a bunch of shit that I want to listen to. What I have to do is, if y'all want to continue, I have to go check my smoker. I'm making jerk Jew meat today. And Britt, I sent you a picture, man. You know I'm not joking. I have a very large
Yep,
smoker.
I saw the smokehouse.
You could hang 4 deer in it. You can do 50 chickens at once. I built the whole thing block and then built a cedar smokehouse on the one side's a firebox. It's got 1 block width between the two, and then the next is the smokehouse, and there's a block turned sideways, so the hole at the top of the firebox obviously pushes the smoke and heat. And right now it's running about 225 degrees. I smoke for 8 hours with apple wood, and I start with maple wood. Yeah,
As soon as you have results, you should show us on the stream. I'd love to.
Oh,
have
well,
like
I'll bring. Believe me, tomorrow you'll see some jerk Jew meat wrapped up and ready to go. I sell it for really reasonable around here. There's a place called the Jerky Outlet in this state, and they sell their manufactured government meat. It comes out to about $28 a pound if you buy it by the ounce there. And if you think of Jack Links, everybody's heard that. Sasquatch, whatever the commercials in America, at least they have. If you look at that, take a Jack Links and weigh it and see how much you're paying a pound. It comes out to almost $30 a pound. I sell the stuff that I get here from local farmers that let their cows eat shit that on the ground like cows eat, and then kill them in a humane way. And it's not USDA because they got laws that actually make it, like I said, government meat. But what I'll do is, instead of talking about it, I got to go check my smokehouse. Take me all of 5 minutes. So I will be gone. I trust the Britisher, especially in Doppelganger, to make sure nobody comes on here and does something dumb while I'm gone. If somebody does anything dumb, if anybody here sees, in fact, I'm not going to talk about it. I just don't want any nudity or extreme profanity for profanity's sake. I think the news and stuff and the arguments about politics is enough fear porn mongery for me. I just basically planned on coming on today and gloating, like I said, but this is a very intriguing conversation. I hope
the stream is in good hands, Ogre.
I hope I derailed it because, man, this is a happy day for me. I would say this. Go check out Nazi Free. He takes off his hat sometimes and goes like this. Look, hang on, almost done, because I got to go work. And he's got like a 9. He's made that mask, Britisher. He's made that. He's got that fucking insanity. Did you see the pinky where he's like,
No, I didn't see the pinky. No, I saw the mask though. Yes, because I think at first he used a different mask, didn't he? And then he realized he needed to make his own mask.
I believe so, but he's got a ring that's Scully that he just randomly, and that's doing gibberish that sounds like almost a Spanglish, but it's not. Doesn't mean anything. I'm convinced of that. It's like, and then he talks to that, and then his pinky is like his doobie smoking buddy that breaks down. He's like, hey, let's get high before you do this. You gotta see it anyway. And then his finger is his mom. It's mama, and then his thumb is his papa. And they come on sometimes too and like bust his balls. I would tell you what, Brett, other than you and Nazi Free, with all due respect to everyone else I've seen. In fact, I've looked at Razor Fist, some of his first stuff too. So I don't want to go down the list. But as far as the small fries, and yes, sir, Brett, to me, I don't care if you had 10 million you'd always be a small fry. Me or my bro. I mean, whatever. You're just a dude. But that said, of all the people that I know, you and him line up in that when you first started, yes, you've improved. Yes, Nachi has improved. But when you first started it, you didn't do what I did. And anybody that's seen my first ones, I might erase them because I just got in front of a camera that was really crappy, like a $9 camera with no mic, just that thing, and had like weird stuff and pretended to be the U.S. government and some strange stuff that really wasn't thought on. I just put a camera on me and was like, do something, dance monkey. And that's what came out. But you two
maybe
boys,
when you
man,
hit a certain subscriber level, look back and just laugh at it.
oh, well, yeah. And the reason I'm doing this stream today is not only to gloat, but to me, this is so much easier. Britisher, really? How do you take so much time of your important life to make such bosh every day? I wonder sometimes, it's hard to do a 10, 20-minute clip. A lot of people think it's just, and for me, I do not do a cut. So if I ever make a mistake, I go, I push like 4 buttons. It's all like it never happened. And I'll make a comment sometimes like, ha, 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 I've done this twice now. And sometimes when I say I've done it twice, I mean, I went for 10 minutes rambling about some shit that came to my mind. And then I just realized I either stuttered or I made a wrong reference. Anyway, that said, I know the British are too, and I'm going by. I hope that incited some other kind of riot outside of because I love you, MC. And if Cabbage ever talks to me again, I do hope to have you lads on this Monday. Because after we'll be Nachi, and with all due respect to Nachi, I had a feeling that Sargon was going to pull us into the wee hours, Brett.
Your psychic abilities kicked in, did you?
Well, it's a good sign. Showed he enjoyed himself. He could have excused himself hours ago.
Yeah, no, I think he quite liked to sort of have a bit of a ramble. And I think he was sort of wondering where's the next one coming from.
I think being in a stream with not like the usual crowd that he usually shares a stream with kind of brought him down back to earth and just like have a normal conversation with normal people without that skeptic community trademark.
Trademark. That's always been his kind of that's always been his kind of philosophy of it, of trying to view everyone as a kind of equal platform, whether they've got 1 million or 50 subscribers. That kind of
that's the instant impression you get when you talk to him. You realize he's just a regular guy. Yeah. Like there's nothing different about him. He's just an average guy.
Mind you, he has got a very, very steely glare. I don't know if you've noticed. Sometimes when he looks into the camera, it goes right through you.
No, I've noticed. It's quite the emotive face at times. Even though it's minimalistic, it conveys a message and a tone, which is pretty impressive. No,
it'll be interesting to see how he's able to pivot after doing this for a significant amount of time.
Well, I've been a subscriber of his since like the very beginning, so I've seen him progress from a small channel to what he is today. So that was a pretty
what I mean by that is his I know he's stated desire to go back to programming games and being a game programmer, but sometimes events take your life over, and whether or not he'll actually be able to go back to that will be interesting, or how easy it will be to make that transition.
And I can guarantee you he's asked that question for himself for the past, I don't know how many years. I think he's on a daily basis, he thinks of something along those lines.
Yeah, but
because it's such a
well, your life changes over time. I mean, your ideas of where you expect to be, how you expect to do things, what you want to do. I mean, a lot of this stuff happens over time, which is really my point with Trump more than anything else. I don't think 100 days in is a valuable way of at this point in time, is a valuable way of saying whether or not he lied or didn't lie. I do agree with the Britishers' comment that if at some point he does not achieve what he said he was going to do, okay, that you've got to look back and say that was a failure. Now, I'm not willing to say lie only because a lie implies intent, which means you're telling somebody an intentional falsehood. And I've never liked it when people use the term lie when it was just something that they were wrong about.
I also find it quite sneaky how you've just snuck this topic back onto the table.
I just wanted to finish that out. That's the
Yeah,
one thing
no,
I
I
wanted
get
to
it.
start with, and I came out in a completely incorrect manner to even speak about it, which I do at times, and I do apologize for that. But anyway,
No,
back
man,
to
it's-
back to Sargon.
Hmm.
Go ahead.
I wonder
no,
whether
no,
he is as knackered as I am today, because obviously he is on the
I
same
was-
time as I am.
Yeah, no,
I'm
I'm
just-
an hour ahead of you, so I went to bed at like 6, and I
Yeah.
had to get up for work as well. So
No, and,
I was
you know,
quite knackered as well.
I thought you were. I actually thought, Caracol, you were a farmer and you work for yourself. But anyway,
No, I have a job.
oh my gracious! I hope you get some rest today, brother.
No, man, I'm pretty good with.
Do you mind
little
saying your
sleep.
age? Are you at least a millennial? Can we know that?
I'm 23.
Yeah, you're a young buck. Hey, man, listen, when I first met my wife, I was 19. I was working hanging drywall, doing a little side work in the house. Man, it was a big life for me, man, studying the whole 9 yards. And when I first met her, man, I stayed up for 4 days. I caught a nap at lunch and whatnot, but she would come over at night after I got off of work, you know, doing metal studs and drywall. And dag nab, man, I'd neglect my studies, and I would read her X-Men comics. I don't want to get, you know, I'm just telling you a little bit, but I didn't sleep is the point.
That's
I can
adorable.
tell you all the things we did, but yeah, when you're 23, fuck, man, oh gracious. And I'm sure all of the old people tell you that, but an old man like me remembers the old days. And
Back to the topic of dried
Sorry.
meat. I don't know if you're aware, but Afrikaners in South Africa are pretty famous for our dried meat called biltong.
It is amazing.
bull
very-
dung, called bull dung.
Biltong. It's not an. It's
You're gonna have to send that in the side check because I still don't know what you said. Bull
sure.
dung?
Yeah, we've got round about where I live, we've got this kind of little rural shop which has biltong. It's amazing. It's just the
It's a
best.
South
snack.
African
Oh,
delicacy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
started
we
with the
have
voortrekkers.
oxtail and bull tongue all the time. That's one of the tongue is one of the best pieces of meat on the cow.
Oh no, but it's not the tongue though. It's just the name. It just sounds like tongue.
Okay. Well, I'm
It's
fine
like
with
beef, yeah.
It started with
It's like beef
the
jerky,
set.
but incredible.
Yeah, it's like beef jerky done right, like African beef jerky. It started
know
with
if I
the
do.
settlers, the voortrekkers, and they had to preserve their meat. And
How do you do it
then
right?
They just grew, like they acquired a taste for it, and they perfected it, and they just perfected the art of dried meat. So now I have a bag right here with me always. But snack in South Africa.
So we're not talking about meat that has been. You're talking about like Kentucky dried. In other words, they just take the meat strips, put it in some kind of either sugar or salt base, and then let
Salt
it dry
spice.
and without any heat. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, no, without. Sometimes some people apply heat, but there are different methods. I'll send some pictures in the chat now,
Smoke?
so you get a better idea.
Yeah, do that. Because I do it my way. I won't even joke. I would never say but I make a brine. The only thing I will say is for people that have heart trouble and high blood pressure, I make a jerky that is mostly smoked, and I just soak it in apple cider vinegar and brown sugar. Probably like 3 cups of brown sugar and about 4 cups of apple cider vinegar, and let it soak for 2 days. You'll know because the outside feels slimy and the fat gets gelatinous. And then you hang that up and smoke it. I hang that up and smoke it with apple wood for 8 hours. Right now, like I said, but a lot of people don't, and I use direct hot smoke. I just checked my thing and I said it was run at 220. It's actually at 300 degrees right now. You know what, Britt? I can actually, I sent that to you, I think, on Twitter. I'm going to share that thing. I won't share the rest of our private stuff, which is nothing to be ashamed of. We just don't want y'all know what we're talking about.
That's what it looks like.
It looks good.
Let me
Looks
see
good.
that.
Yeah, it's super tasty.
That's kind of, so that's straight up like aged beef. That's not just hung in a smokehouse, and that's the real stuff right there. That looks good.
No, it's I always, like I said, I always have a bag. It really, when you eat it, because it's dried, it doesn't feel like you're eating much, but it fills you up right away as it expands in your stomach, in a sense.
That's my smokehouse going right now. You can see it's cloud. It's almost cloudy, but the holes drawn, and it's got.
How many bucks can it have?
I could hang 4 deer in there right now, but if you wanted them, and the best way to do it would be 2. In other words, two halves. But I could put 4 in there. It'd just be so tight. I'd have to smoke them for probably 3 days. And I do that for people. I mean, if someone brings me like 3/4, 3 pieces of deer. They call it venison up here. It's weird to me. I call it deer meat, but whatever. They bring me the butts and the shoulders, and they want them smoked. I weigh them, and I charge them $2.80 a pound to hang them up in my smokehouse and smoke them. But the quarters like that will be about 12 hours. If you brought a whole deer, you want like the whole thing, ribs and all, just the whole animal smoked from daggone butthole down to the end of the neck, it'd be the same price. But like I said, I could put 4 in there, but I would only do it 2 at a time, cut in half. There you go. It'll do 50 chickens at once, if that helps.
That's insane.
How many chickens do you have in there now?
There's none right now because my connection is, and I got to be really careful about what I say. But look, I live in a place where we don't.
Well, I figured you threatened those other roosters. Either they started flying right,
I shot a rooster the other day just for being a rooster, man. I didn't even eat him or nothing. I was so mad. I wasn't ready. I didn't have no scalding pot or nothing, and I shot some bitch straight through the head with my 25 caliber Benjamin Trail. And boom, shot him dead. He dropped like a stone, the chicken thing, but I hit him right in the brain. I know it blew his brains out. His head was gone because he wouldn't. This is what happened, MC, to clarify that, because that sounds cruel. I gave 13 eggs to a lady I know from church, a really nice lady. But when they hatched, and I told her, you can have the roosters, eat them. God bless you, Miss So-and-so, because I love you if you're listening. And she I know the one rooster pissed her off because that son of a gun, when he sees me, and that's the one I got, man, because he probably pissed her off, and she might. I don't know. If you scald a dog when they're young, man, they'll run from hot water. That's all I'll say. And that rooster, every time he saw me, he thought it was hot water coming. And my neighbors, people have heard me mention it. I think I took down a lot of the live streams, but here's the facts. They were over at my neighbor's house. I had to build a better fence, and this rooster was leading off 4 hens constantly. They're digging around my neighbor's yard. MC, I mean, how many times do you tell your neighbor to keep your chickens out before you stop shooting the gun up in the air and start shooting him? And I love my neighbor, man. He's great. So anyway, rooster's over there, and I've tried to run him back 4 days, ran me ragged. It don't kick. It was more like he was just like boom. But I was so mad, didn't eat some bitch. So 50 chickens will go in there, and as soon as I get my connection together, which was the start of that long, because I rant too. People were killing me, Brett. They were like, either some folks were like, it was one guy said it. I have to say this on air because it made me laugh. It was the best laugh I got today. It was like, it was a really good stream as long as the guy with the hat wasn't talking. I went back through and there was 2 guys with hats. Brett, you got a hat on.
It must be me. Yeah, it must be me.
No, I don't think they were speaking of you, sir.
I mean, to be honest, when you look at comments, of course, when my clip was on Sargon's channel, it got viewed something like 250,000 times. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
I've seen some of your prizes.
Then you look in the comment section, and it just blows you away.
I've seen some of the goose, the Fair Day gooses in there, man. That were like,
I mean, there is hostility. There is hostility, and then there's just stuff that is off the charts.
He doesn't even want me to quote him.
You just. I mean, at times I was in tears laughing. It was just so funny.
Yeah, there were some jewels, and not only yours there, but also the Theresa May, the one that you did on your channel right after. There were some jewels in there too, brother. There was
yeah. But it was just fabulous. Who the hell is this guy to come on here? And it was just, abject rage at times. And you just, because, you see 1 or 2 and you go, oh, that's a bit strong. And then you just go on and on and on. Eventually there's almost like a rhythm to it. And eventually you just start laughing and you just can't stop yourself laughing anymore. At least that's how I react. I don't know.
Should I screen share this? There was one person was like, I'm paraphrasing before I look it up because I want your approval, Brett. It's a little crass. They were like, hey, it was fun watching you give. It was fun. Let me put it in a nice way. They said it was fun watching you fillet Sargon all night. And then the person after them was like, yeah, I wish I could have got in on that fellatio action. I look, all the comments. Actually, I usually don't do it. I use it sparingly. But all the comments I love with my little face.
Myra Yiannopoulos by any chance?
Yeah, it was great. They went one way or the other for me. And be honest, I was shocked because when Sargon was on, I figured that I would have so many people coming on to see him. And then, I mean, we were all good hosts, weren't we, Brett? I mean, we had, I'm not going to say who, but we may have had one loose cannon aboard the ship. I humbly say this time for once, thank God it wasn't me. But but we may or may not have. And even if we did, I think we handled that well too, and it all went smooth.
I think it went very, very smooth.
So
yes.
beautiful. But I expected to get a lot more trolls that were coming to see him and then would use us for punching bags like, oh yeah, I was at the Britishers channel and he's such a cuck, he didn't say shit. Or, oh, the Ogres tries to be a big tough guy, but look, he was, but no, it was mostly just jolly jokes and punches from the, like I was quoting Moby Dick the other day. I guess I won't do it again. Jolly jokes and punches in the ribs from the unaccountable old Joker.
I think, 3 hours in, it would be a bit too long-winded for most trolls anyway. They need a bit more instant impact, don't they?
At 3 hours in, I was graciously trying to bow out. I know you heard me about 3 times. I said it as indirectly as I could. I just made mention. And the second time, you heard him go, well, I'm going to go get some tea.
Yeah.
Dude. I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but I would say this about gloating. I look today, not because I'm narcissistic,
Well, it's because you're narcissistic.
not the only reason, but because I'm narcissistic and I wanted to know, I couldn't find a stream where Sargon was on it for 5 hours today. If someone finds it and is listening to this or watches it and subsequent watches, tell me, because I didn't find one today. And he was on with a lot of cool people, way cooler than the Britisher and me and the Caracal and the crew that was on. Really, they are. A lot of them were way cooler. And not just because they got more people, but because they were fucking cooler than us, just the way it is. But they didn't. He was just there, man. It was, I don't even
Well, you see,
I'm getting a neck.
They may be cooler. They may be cooler, but they didn't have Day is Dead.
That was a big plus. And you see the Keck, she broke the Keck mask out almost to the end and like put it, I was there as the Keck.
Yeah, that was good.
He had like the opportunity to leave for 3 hours and he decided to stay. So I think that's a very good that you can.
Yeah, I felt great about that.
Yeah, I was beginning to wonder whether I was hallucinating when she put that Keck mask on.
I broke my rule because I don't usually, when a big guest is on, when Razorfist was on, I sent him a DM a week later and was like, hey, it was great, mate. The King is here with me watching your stuff. He says you kick ass. And he was like, cool, kick ass. The King rocks. In fact, I don't think I've sent him another one. I'll send him another one in about 4 months when I'm like, hey, Raze, if you liked it last time, I'm fucking dig it. If you come back on, tell us some more stories about you kicking ass and fucking taking names, bro. And he hopefully will say yes. But that said, Sargon split last night in the most epic way, Britisher. I downloaded that whole monstrosity today because I can't get a clip of it unless I got the whole thing. You dig it? So
Yeah,
I downloaded that whole thing. It took 45 minutes, and I couldn't do anything.
Upload that exit. Only that.
Just, yeah. Oh, I'll have that. When I make a mistake in my videos now, if I want to do a jump cut, because I was bragging earlier about not doing them, because if I make a mistake and I can just roll on with something easy, I'll probably have Sargon pop in once in a while and be like, no.
As a transition slide.
Yeah, that was the best. So I broke my rule today, and I was like, hey, Sargon, I just want you to know that was the most epic Brexit, is what I so that was the most epic Brexit that I've ever seen in my life. Thank you, sir. And he said something. They're important people like that are busy. Of course, he didn't give me like a long. He was just like, hey, fuck you. It was great being on your stream. But it's good to me. I mean, that was exciting to me. Anybody, if you're a running track and you're there with if you swim, water, in the Olympics, and Michael Phelps is there, you're like, hey, Michael Phelps, you fucking 7 medals, homeboy. I don't care who you are. You call me a sissy or whatever. When you're among people that do what you do, but do it at a much grander scale, there's always a feeling of, man, that's pretty cool. I don't know how else to say. And that was groovy that he hung with us so long, Britisher. That, man, I don't know how much longer I'm going to hang. People are flooding into church, Brett, because they love it when I say a short thing and then mock me later by saying, oh, you said a short stream and it was 29 and a half hours. And that said, there's been ones of this from church that have went on for 3 days. And now, I mean, after the thing, the bell rings, ding, ding, ding. Lotus Wolf, God Bother was here early. These people flood in here because I'm sure some people took the link that I've already put out and they just kept it away for after we go off air. Because then the real thing, anyway, I say it all the time, the real thing begins in what we do behind the scenes because we all work for the Illuminati. You know, I do that thing. That's not just a joke for Sidney Rough Diamond. I'm under control of the pyramid. No, it's a joke. That is a joke.
This gives
But
me
you-
flashbacks to when Sargon was reading from, was it the Rothschilds?
Yeah.
Deathbed
Well, no, it was
Confessions?
from
That blew my mind.
that
No,
was
it's
from,
Rothschilds.
oh well, he
Mhm.
was reading a book from David Rockefeller.
Rockefeller. I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
And he might have been reading the Rothschild. He quoted the Rothschilds a couple times, and Dopp got information on the Rothschilds. But I'll say this: there was a controversy about the Britisher because of his accent. And when he first started out, maybe 4 months into it, when I jumped on board, there was this big thing in his comment section about he actually worked for MI6, and that he had a contrived British accent, and he was really from Russia or Lithuania. I mean, the list goes on. If you go back there and look, and they're interspiced throughout his old archive. But yeah, I'm sure you remember that, Brett.
Yes,
Worked
I
for
appear to
MI6.
be quite a multinational Briton when it comes to those people.
Where does your
And,
loyalty
yeah,
lie?
seem to also have a very interesting career path. Yes, I don't quite know how all that came about, but I've just kept them guessing.
Hey, look, I got to show you something, brother. Look, see that? I'm so sad today. You see that?
Oh, the chutney is almost done.
I'm going to keep probably this around until I have to toss it out because the smell of it, man. Oh, it's fucking good. It's like
What flavor?
What you are doing is you are witnessing here the attempt to civilize a colonial. So
South Africa has some
I sent him
killer
the chutney.
oh, this is some Taming of the Shrew type deal for you, only in reverse. For the dude. Really, Mr.
I
Hope?
sent him some homemade apricot chutney.
Very good.
Oh.
Very good.
I can't
Good
wait till
choice.
you start playing the records back and forth and say A.
I do love the. I'll
The
tell you
rain
what
in
else.
Spain falls mainly in the plain.
It could, in my humble opinion, if I made this, if I try to reproduce this, and you ever produce a recipe, sir, as you said it was homemade in your home by a recipe you got offline, apparently, I would put probably some Thai dragons in it or the same peppers, but about 5 times more. Because that's what I like about
You
it.
would turn it up, would you?
Yeah, because right now it gives me a little, a draining of my swamp, man. I'm telling the allergies here. How are they in Britain? They're not bad, are they? Do y'all get like springtime hay fever and whatnot?
Allergies are actually quite high in the overall population here in Britain. Yes.
Is it because of
think it is.
chemtrails?
Well, it's more. Yeah.
No,
We're
speak to
back
that.
on Alex
Is it
Jones again.
chemtrails? Is it that why?
No,
Because
I think it's
Vinyl
largely
Nation
due to the
just said
fact
he was
that
like, did
we
you
were
see
the first
Vinyl
nation to
Nation?
industrialize.
he's going to avoid this. He won't do it.
Sorry?
No, carry on. I just wanted to talk to you about chemtrails, but I don't think I'll get you to do it.
Well, chemtrails, there isn't really much I have to say. I mean, when it comes to chemtrails, we have trails in the sky like everyone else, but you just get condensation trails behind aeroplanes.
Well, that's contrail.
Yeah.
So you're saying they're not chemtrails, that they're not putting aluminum dioxide out or sodium, whatever, jigger, and either seeding clouds and then also having things rain down on the soil that cause it not to grow very well. And then Lionel Nation did tweet out just recently, I retweeted it, that he was like, having seasonal allergies and sinus headaches. And I was thinking, yeah. And then he was like, so is everybody else. And he showed a shot of the sky with just planes up in there. Now, he didn't say chemtrails. He just showed you the sky crisscross with this, that when I was a kid, Brett, they go up there and then you'd see it dissipate. Now it like trails off in a big old cloud. And I didn't have no allergies in my whole life. I used to be, every time I went to the doctor to see allergic to anything, I'd be like, no, because I could eat anything, which I still can. My digestive system is wonderful, but the rest of my respiratory system, and you can hear it anyway. I wonder, and maybe I'm just projecting the fact that I'm getting old and now dealing with new things that I could deal with easily before when I was young, and trying to justify that with things that I've heard in the alternative media. But just like a bunch of other conspiracy theories I could bring up, it does seem to Are your sinuses worse over there than they were when you were young?
No.
Okay. Well, everybody can't be fucking 007, work for MI6, motherfucking hit the gym every day and be in, the peak of health, sir.
This is the most iconic chutney brand in South Africa. Mrs. Balls.
Mrs. Ball, what?
Read the label.
I can't. It's so small. Mrs. Balls, did you say, sir? Okay, I mean, that's good. That's not obscene to me. I've already used the F word like 3 times. I just try to keep in mind that sometimes Watcher watches with their grandchildren. But that is Mrs. Balls. No comment.
I'll try and get a clearer picture.
Yeah, okay.
Or as she's, I think British will get this one. Or as she's known in Britain, Yvette Cooper.
Precisely. Yes. Thank you very much. Very good. Yes. Very good indeed.
We have Yvette Faraka. Who's Yvette Cooper?
Yvette Cooper is the. Sorry. Go ahead.
Her husband is Edward Balls, or Mr. Balls, who was the Shadow Chancellor. No, yeah.
Mr. You're not joking? That's his name? Like
I'm not sure. He also was on Strictly Come Dancing.
He was Chancellor of the Exchequer under Prime Minister Gordon Brown.
All right, what's an Exchequer?
Mr. Balls, yes.
What is an
The
Exchequer?
money man.
Okay.
He's the finance minister, the guy in charge of state finances. That was him. Second most important, second most powerful man in government.
Mr. Balls.
Mr. Balls. Yes.
He had the balls to control the money.
I think you can imagine that the media had quite a bit of fun with him.
Yeah, that's what we call fodder over here, good sir. Probably there too.
And Yvette Cooper, who of course is still going and seems to be an ally of Jess Phillips. She's sort of a feminist extraordinaire. Yvette Cooper is effectively Britain's answer to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, you got me and Jenny looking into that lady there, Jess Phillips. Jess, right?
Yeah, Jess Phillips. Yes.
Anyway, she's quite a person. Yeah.
She's the one that Sargon sends, I think, tweets to saying, "I would not rape you."
I would not even rape you. It was the even.
He does have a way with words. Sometimes it's amazing to me. When we were talking last night, he was a straightforward. You could have had it on any show on AM radio. But then, like, you see his tweets, man, it's like, holy shit, this guy's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, man.
Well, if you remember, I showed a book. I put a link to a book in the side chat yesterday when Sargon was on. And that was the book by Jess Phillips.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why he sort of wanted to know, is this real?
And he instantly decided to buy it.
And he instantly decided to buy it. And I think we have inspired a clip being made here, because I don't think he'll be able to resist that.
No, he said it last night when you were talking about it. He said, "Oh, that's a clip."
No, he was super keen.
I heard you gloating. And just very un-British, like gloating in public that way, sir. I heard you like, "Oh, so did I inspire a clip?" Chortle. No, it was good. Yeah, that's what the good thing about this is, the synergy. I would say this about Sargon. I really, honestly, in my heart, I couldn't imagine I got a number, and I'm not going to say it. If I got higher than that number, I'd have to rethink even stuff that I've already rethought, because the more reach you have, the more one must consider what they're saying. When I had 150 subs and church would be the same 15 people every day, man, I would get I don't even want to talk about it. We're not going to talk about that. It never happened. I erased all that stuff. I think Google probably has record of it forever, but in the CIA, let's not forget that. But that said, Britt, when I think about where you're at, my number is lower than where you're at now. I'll just say that. Because that's once you're talking about look, I don't want to put it under pressure. I'll just say you're talking about a football stadium full of people watching you. You told me the number of watch time, the minutes. I won't say it on air. But because I'll say mine, I showed you, Brett, 139,000 hours plus in 27 days. That terrified me. When Sargon or Razor or other people that we don't have on, like Shoe on Head, or who's the kind of chunky guy that just talks at the camera? Brett, you turn me on to him. I can't think of his name right now. Boogie. Yeah.
Yes, Boogie has a massive audience.
Oh man, I'm frozen with terror right now. That's what I'm trying to say. Thinking of that.
He's an internet legend. Like he's one of the YouTube veterans to an extent.
Maybe I could hopefully in like a year we could talk him into being on the show. I really want Base Stick Man. I can't say that enough. And look in the camera. Base Stick Man, we would really appreciate your time and attention. Please draw your attention to the Madcap crew.
I think your odds
5,
are pretty
10,
good.
20 minutes of your time, sir. Thank you.
I think your odds are pretty good of getting Base Stick Man. He goes on a lot of streams and like, well,
Yeah.
bigger streams I've seen, but I think if you can on and
He's
the
busy.
Rageaholic have been on this stream, I think he'd be tempted.
Yeah, he's busy, so I'm not going to press him too much. But I think he does know. Here's the thing with this stream. Look, there's 22 people watching right now, man. It's not like I have a giant pool. But when someone out they're going to be somewhere and they're allowed a platform, if they have nothing to do that way that day, I mean, Sargon, we had. I don't want to gloat, dude, but I got to say there were 500 people watching us at one time. I'm used to trying to keep up, which I'm not today because it's my day off. But I'm used to trying to keep up with the stream, the chat. I didn't even try yesterday. Once in a while, if I seen Sir Sydney or somebody I know, I would try to pop something in, but it was going.
Ooh, Ogre, we have some breaking news. Well,
What's up?
Check that out.
China bans religious names for Muslim babies. Oh my goodness! Somebody's growing a brain. Are you trying to say somebody's growing a brain, sir? What do you mean by this? What's your take on it?
China
all the
has-
updates so far all seems to be very fresh. So this is pretty new news. But my take on it would be that this is setting an example for many countries. A lot of countries will look at China and say, "Hey, these guys are actually taking like a precaution. Well, not a precaution, but they're taking an action that would be seen as controversial in any other country, and they don't care."
They have been doing this more recently, like in an area of China that is quite Muslim. They have been cracking down on jihadists quite heavily, and they are trying to influence on the world stage. So I think it's weird because China doesn't actually have religion, really. Well, kind of Buddhism, but it's really kind of just a state. So it's not actually doing it out of religious prejudice. It's just trying to go, this is what China is, kind of thing.
Well, I think
this
in
is a very interesting development indeed.
they've already banned. I think they've already banned things like beards. So I think unless you're over 60 or something like that, and a male, and you're a Muslim, you're not allowed to have a beard.
Yeah.
So they have got quite stringent laws in that area.
Yeah, they're saying list to ban baby names released amid ongoing crackdown on religion that includes law against veils and beards. To back up what he just said, I mean that's. I want to say this. Teddy Roosevelt, he probably stole it from somebody. So if I quote somebody and you got one, because I used to say that Thomas Jefferson. Anyway, sometimes there's a quote redone by somebody else, but I know Teddy Roosevelt did say this. Diplomacy ends at the water's edge, meaning we don't give a crap what you think. If it's better for our country, get on down the road. In other words, if this beard, and I'm wearing a beard, but if my community, not necessarily the United States government, that might bum me out. In fact, it would. But I'd do it if I had to, I reckon. I hate to think I'd have to live like that. But if my community now came and was like, hey, the beard's got to go because we don't like that symbol, and gave me a good reason why, I won't lie. I probably would wear it for another month just to be like, I can do whatever the hell I want. But in the end, if my community came to me that way, man, the beard would go. In fact, I'd point to Dankula and say that doesn't make me less of a man, because when it came down to it and it came to feeding himself and his family or keeping some hair on his face, he cut the beard off. I've downloaded that. I played it one day. So, I respect that, and I would do the same thing. But that said, I'm not supporting the state doing that. That's what I'm warring with right now.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not on board with the state having that kind of influence in people's lives. I think it's
I would like
pushing
to
the line.
ask, actually, related to that, proposals for banning the hijab or other veils for women has been tabled in France and other countries. Do you guys think this is a right way to go about women actually being forced by their peers and basically by the culture, or maybe even by husbands directly, to wear hijab, or should be done in some other way?
I have a short answer before the Britisher probably is going to dig into this. My short answer would be I don't think they're addressing the actual problem or the actual source. I think they're just treating a symptom, if that makes sense. So I don't think it will have drastic effects or the desired effect.
It may have a dual purpose. It's not so much the effect of the initial. I mean, the symbolism. They're attacking it in two different ways. I think when they do that. Well, first of all, they're attacking a specific problem of identification, being able to identify who these people are. All right, similar to the police ordering, like in Alabama, the Antifa to. They weren't going to let them in the area if they came in with their masks because they want to know who these people are. All right, but there's also the fact that by doing that, they're provoking the hardcore Islamists, saying, "Okay, we're drawing a line here against your cultural identity, and we're saying your cultural identity is not going to dominate." Now, it's a minor thing, but in some ways it is a provocation toward the Islamist sects. Now, how that plays out and whether or not it's the right thing to do, I honestly, I personally feel that that's probably not the way to go about it. But
yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Good point. But again, I think they're not approaching it in the most effective manner. If I have to repeat myself, I think they are treating a symptom. I don't think they have to go to the root of all this, not the.
Yeah, I think they also basically make themselves a bit of a hostage to fortune when they do these things. Because if you remember, there was that incident in somewhere in the south of France. Was it Nice? I'm not sure. After the truck attack, where they tried to kind of ban the burkini.
Yeah, I remember that.
Kind
of
backfired
horribly.
Covering, yes, and that's just it, because photos got out of this woman surrounded by police.
Yeah, being forced to.
And it just looked, looked hideous.
It looked dystopian.
You know that if you introduce a ban on veils or something like that, you are invariably going to get imagery like that. And it's more than likely going to backfire. Yes.
Yeah. The question would be, how do you enforce it if the person in question doesn't comply? I mean,
and you know full well right from the start that they are not going to comply.
Because
exactly. So, continue.
So bringing the British in, do you know UKIP in the general election are going to actually are proposing a ban of the burqa? But just imagine it, in a British city, the police telling a citizen, you can't wear what you want to wear because we don't want you to. It just seems very wrong. It seems antithetical to the idea of personal choice.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's definitely not the optimal approach to actually dealing with a real problem.
Yeah. And then you get into also sort of legal questions whereby, for example, if one woman is wearing a face covering and she's walking down the street and someone tears it off her face, it's
enforcing the law.
What is the legal position then?
But it sounds a good piece. Justice. It sounds a good piece of rhetoric, but it honestly is just treating a symptom of a failure to integrate rather than the actual how do we get people to culturally identify as British rather than as they're with their religion.
Well, if you want them to integrate,
that was my main point.
What are you going to do with a population though that isn't willing to integrate?
Most
that
of
is
them actually are.
There to force it the other way.
Well, you will in every society, in every cultural group, you will get people who will always try to be supremacist with their culture group. That happens with all culture groups, but honestly, I think most Muslims don't actually follow the Quran as doctrinally as the Puritans, but those who are puritanical make their presence known and are very loud. So
okay, well, let me ask you a question: Has there been a nation in recent history that has basically been bred out, a Christian nation that was bred out and turned Muslim?
Well, Spain went. Back in like the 1400s.
As in a war of demographics.
Yeah, well, Spain was until.
And if you think about the Ottoman Empire, the answer would be yes.
Yeah.
Well, what about something sooner than that?
You could go with.
I'd have to do more research.
I don't know. They've been Muslim. It's not really since the Ottoman Empire, but someone else might be able to help.
Really? What about Lebanon?
Yeah, and I was going to go with some stuff, but they'd already always been there. They just revived. It would be like saying
No. In Lebanon, you had basically almost a majority Christian nation. Now Lebanon is 80 to 90% Muslim.
Yeah.
Where did the
And that's
Christians
why
go?
Lebanon turned into a nightmare, because initially their political system, as it was set when they were first created after the withdrawal of the French and the British colonial system, was they decided to say, okay, we're going to choose a 50-50 split between the Maronite Christians in the legislature and 50-50 split with the quote unquote Muslims in the area. And then over time, that changed because of the population changes. Whereas the Muslim population versus the Maronite population increased dramatically. And that was only in what, a 50-year time span?
I kind of see what you mean with that, but I really don't think that's going to happen with like, for example, Britain, for example, because even let's say that more immigration does happen to the same extent it already has. Those kind of the values of Britain actually override. People integrate to this country a lot more than, let's say, in other countries. For example, like, do you remember the Turkish referendum?
The what referendum?
The Turkish one.
This recent one?
Yeah, the recent one. Because in Germany and in the Netherlands, the Turks there who haven't really integrated, they backed Erdogan like 80%. But the Turks in Britain, in some countries, really rejected it at 80%. So it's really that it's not that it's, oh, these population groups have come here and they're all the same. They've all got this kind of very, very, very socially conservative values. It's that once they come here, a lot of them, if we've got the right values and if we actually push it hard enough, will actually come around to our way of thinking. But we've actually got to be positive about it rather than.
But it's not just a matter of coming around to allowance. It's also has to come around to, you've got to actively prevent incursions into things like freedom of speech and so forth. And there are areas in Great Britain right now that are being run by Sharia law, correct?
Which areas?
Well, I'm just going by, generic news media where they said that there are certain areas where they said they set up Sharia courts and that those areas were allowed.
No. Whenever those areas are found, they get shut down. Like they used to have, there was a thing where they had some Sharia police, and they got arrested for that because it's completely illegal. It's completely wrong. And they were going around telling people, oh, you can't drink like that. You can't drink. You can't telling women, oh, you can't dress like that. Dress modestly. And some Polish migrants came in and kicked the living shit out of them, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
hey, what's wrong with that then?
What's wrong with what?
Then them coming in and saying, hey, man, you can't tell women to do that. And if the people try to like, oh, akadaka, they're just like, hey, akadaka, bam, bam, just knocking the fuck out. What's wrong with that?
Well, it's assault for one thing.
Well, look, it's assault to go up to women that you don't know and say, you're not dressed modestly enough. You need to do what I say when they are an autonomous human being. That is an assault, sir. So I would say it's meeting force with force. I just made it very clear. What if some people were doing that to a woman and some other people came out and said, stop doing that to these women, and they stood up and said, akadaka, akadaka. That was my American way of saying, they stood up and said, fuck you. Your women will do as we say. And then the people say, yeah, well, come Moan Labe. So in that case, there is no assault. So what would you say to that? Meeting force with force and saying, fuck you, Islam. You can't force our women to do what you want.
Well, I don't really support the Polish people hitting them with sticks, but you know what? I wouldn't have arrested them, quite honestly.
Well, I think they should have done what they did. Look, you can go online right now and see Russian truck drivers are tried to be extorted by Islam. They try to extort these Russian truck drivers. The Russian truck drivers blocked this car in, beat the dog shit out of these dogs, beat them into the woods. The one guy, I'm feeling empathy in my heart because I'm not there and riled up like these boys, and they beat this one dude down, and then they pushed their car over on its hood in the ditch. Then they get in their Russian trucks and you can hear them like, and they're just laughing about it as they go down the road. And in my opinion, That's the best way to take care of it. On a local basis, no cops needed. That sends a message. Don't come try to extort us. You're crazy. We will beat your ass and flip your car over. Anyway, that was long-winded, but I'm vehemently patriotic. I'm ardent patriotic. And that said, man, I would be that way if I was Russian, if I was English. Wouldn't matter to me. I just happen to be American.
Well, that's because Americans tend to have a very vicious streak. We're very vengeful people.
Praise God. Praise God. Whoever you want to praise.
Yeah,
Anyway.
we never got never got round to finishing the job of civilizing you lot.
Well, you know what happened when y'all came over here? You started interbreeding with all the locals right here, and you made this breed of Englishmen, Frenchmen, and Native American mostly, but there was some Spaniard up in there, and what you come out with is a bunch of daggone rebels that don't give a fuck.
Guys, I see Carrie is back, and
Yeah, I seen that.
Pipe up on
I'm
this subject.
back.
Yeah, I wish she
Hi,
would. I
Carrie.
think we ran her off early with our nerd stuff about Rome.
No, you didn't run me off. You didn't run me off. I promise you didn't. No, I heard you guys just talking about the burqa.
Yeah,
And
she
the
wanted
whole
to
thing
have
that
like a
happened-
female opinion. She felt that was
Yeah,
needed.
okay. Oh,
Lay
man.
it on us.
So, you're talking about it takes away personal autonomy and things like that whenever a government comes in and says no burkinis on a beach. I could totally see that, but you are entering into this conversation assuming that these women already have personal autonomy and making the decisions that they are to choose these type of clothing to wear out in public.
Yeah, but you see, that's where we're getting into choppy waters because we can't determine whether it's their free will or if whether they're being.
Do they
coerced
believe in
into it. That's
Islam?
the problem.
Do they believe in Islam? That would be the first question. And if they're wearing a burqa, 10 times out of 10, they're gonna say yeah. So if they believe in Islam, they're not making the choice themselves. They're simply not. They're being dictated by the ideology that they follow.
Can I come in with some personal knowledge on this one?
Go for it.
Sure.
We've got some local elections coming up, and a friend of mine's actually doing supervising one of the counts, and he's supervising one of the counts because in this area it's I think a very ethnic area, very Muslim, and the reason they're supervising it is because they know that some of the people are kind of we've had this up with Tower Hamlets where imams of the area are actually kind of not quite coerced but kind of heavily direct. Okay, you vote for this candidate. You vote for this candidate.
Oh yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And it happens in these areas. It happens with these communities, and we know who it is basically. But it's and you have to kind of check that. Oh, there's an imam standing outside the poll station, and you have to kind of tell them to go away because it's kind of it's that kind of coercion.
Yeah, these women's in these type of situations, in these specific societies, and it's going to be the Muslim societies.
I'd like to hear your opinion on the fact that I think we were discussing it earlier. The crux of the matter is how do you enforce this? I mean, you're obviously going to get. You don't
need to enforce it. You need to shame it out of existence. These women are being given the choice of cover themselves from head to toe or be punished.
So Polish boys beating them with sticks, Carrie. What do you think about that?
Wait, say that again?
Well, we were just talking before you came on. You were talking about this issue, and my point was very clearly that the Polish lads that came out and they were like telling the women to cover up, and they basically beat the Muslims down with sticks.
That's absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
What part of it?
Well, how are you going? Let me ask a different question, Carrie. How are you going to?
Beating someone?
Oh, well,
for wearing something?
I think they were being accosted. The women were being, because what they do is they play this game where they rape women. They say if they're not dressed in the hijab and you were walking down the road without covering, what they do is they gang up on you, like sometimes 70.
Yeah.
And they gang rape you.
Oh,
I
know.
So what these boys were doing was basically saying the taharush won't happen here. If you accost one of our women on the street, Polish men will come out with sticks and beat you down. And I'm saying,
okay, I see what you're saying.
Rock and roll.
Okay. It's the locals that are defending their women.
Yeah, and that was too easy to convince you. I'm
That's
just
what
saying, yeah, that's fine. I'm not saying just go out and beat Muslims down because they're Muslim. But
Okay,
if there's a group of Muslims trying to enforce Sharia law in your neighborhood, don't stand for it.
Exactly, and that just comes back to the original point. You have to start at the very, very, very beginning, the very top of something that is this ideological and this oppressive when it comes to females.
Yeah, but I don't know if you heard earlier. I still think they're treating a symptom, not the real problem. The real problem is there's not a need to integrate. There's not a will to integrate from some of these people. That's the problem.
I totally agree. But
you're not gonna solve that by just treating the symptoms and pushing.
No, you definitely don't treat the
into...
symptoms. You don't treat the symptoms. You have got to start at the root. And what is the root? Islam.
Well,
period.
Yeah, but the burqa isn't the root. The burqa is a symptom.
Yeah,
no, I didn't say the burqa is the root. I'm talking
is,
about why do we get the oppressive shit that we do? It's because of Islam.
But the thing
That's
is,
where you start.
But the burqa is not just a symbol. It's also a symbol.
Yeah.
Okay.
A very, very
and it's a very, very noticeable symbol, and now it's expanded into this is what this means, whether it means that to the people that are wearing it or not. All right. So when you say attacking the burqa is not attacking the problem, well, in a way you can say that it is.
Let me clarify myself.
I'm not saying it.
Let me clarify myself just a little bit better. When it comes to women saying that their personal choice is being taken away from them by some sort of government or law or statute or whatever it may be, saying that they can't wear this or they can't wear that, okay? It exists in every single possible country that you can't wear certain things in public because it's either against the law or it's against decency, or it might disrupt the public and stuff like that. So you're going to encounter these things in every single country that you go to. You have to, if you choose to stay in that country, you have to follow the laws, period. If France decides to make that a law, then so be it. That's theirs. They operate underneath a secular government. They don't recognize any kind of a religion. They are kind of gerrymandering to Islam right now because freaking virtue. But whenever it comes to women being given the opportunity, or they say the opportunity to make the choice of whether to wear a burqa or not, they're not even presented with that. So they see it as they're protecting themselves or they're being pious or whatever the argument may be. You have to go back very, very, very back to the start. Why are they in these things to begin with? Like, why is this even a thing? And it's going to go back to the ideology. I won't even say the religion because it's not simply a religion.
But back to an earlier point that we still
you
haven't
enforce it by shaming the hell out of it. You enforce it by empowering the women that are a part of that community. You show them that the things that they're being told by their male counterparts are untrue. That their religion actually does not support the burqa in any way. That came from Muhammad.
But I think still a key issue here that we haven't gotten a resolution for is what we mentioned earlier, is that incident where those pictures surfaced of this woman on the beach being surrounded by policemen trying to enforce a similar type of law. Now
I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think that woman went out there on that beach thinking that she wasn't, and I mean, and knowing the laws and stuff that was going on in the news, she wasn't stupid.
Regardless of that, my question is, how do you enforce this law without just having a shitstorm of controversy? I'm talking about it from a practical standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I come from Florida, so we were on the beach a lot whenever I was growing up, and there was a rule that a thong wasn't allowed on the family beach. And the way that the police officers there would take care of that, they would drive up in their little beach trucks, write a ticket, just like they would for like a traffic stop, and then you would have to go to court or you pay the fine or whatever. That's very easy to do. I mean, yeah, those police officers, they probably handled that incorrectly, but I mean, this is a new thing that they're being confronted with as well. So it's always going to be a touchy subject when it comes to handling women with law enforcement, especially handling Muslim women, because they're seen as like super victims, which they are. They're victims of some serious oppression, but they can be written a ticket. They can be written a ticket.
Yeah, that's a very good question. They seem to be that's the irony, that feminism has actually embraced the burqa as like a resistance symbol or whatever. It's absolutely
dis-
absurd.
It's
It's like it's
disgusting.
from the Twilight Zone.
I know.
And in this case, the women are actually victim of real patriarchy because that's what the Islam is.
Exactly. No, it's actually it's more funny to me almost than concerning because it boggles my mind. I can't wrap my head around it.
When it
It's
comes
too
to
hilarious.
feminists and Islam, what I'm seeing is these feminists, they look around and they see these women who follow Islam and they see these women who wear hijabs. Like, let's talk Linda Sarsour. What a fucking animal. Oh God, she's an animal. She is running around speaking with a Bronx accent and wearing these very colorful niqabs and hijabs and all that good stuff. And she's saying curse words and on Twitter and stuff, making it look cool. Well, meanwhile, her sisters in Syria and Saudi Arabia are having the shit beat out of them in the street or being snatched out of a car and shot dead in the street for driving. And it's
Yeah,
like, okay, you're going to strap an American flag hijab on an American woman and say, look how beautiful you are. No. I do not accept that. No. Oppression is nowhere present in the United States.
I think a better
and it's not going to be
summary
introduced that way either.
Conscious Carol had a great video where he put
from
together
a moral
stuff.
standpoint, more from a practical standpoint. I want the authorities and the governments of Europe to employ the most effective strategies necessary.
Yeah, and brother, how long did it take you to put that video together, Carol? I hate to bust your thought right
Which
here.
one? The Antifa
Where that
one?
where it's like the music. Dun, 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 dun. You had bass stick man in there. Boom.
That took about 6 hours.
How long?
6 hours.
Yeah, I knew because you waded through a lot of stuff to get those clips. Then you had to cut it up. You had to download them all. I'm thinking it probably.
And I had to order them that they kind of match the vibe of the music and like the tone of the song as well.
Go ahead with your thought. I'm gonna
Get ready because you'll get a few more in a couple days.
Oh no, I'll definitely
Yeah,
bring
I'm
out a
ready to
second
put that up
version.
in the chat, too, for
The
people
first video
listening.
got such a good response. I mean, it's already up to 500 views in 2 days, so I'm definitely going to make a second one.
It's bad to the bone, dude. The way you did that. I've watched it 3 times myself. So 3 of those 500,
Oh,
whatever.
thanks, man.
Oh,
No, it's a
and
labor of love.
a question on the Antifa thing to the Americans. What on earth is happening in America? We don't have this Antifa thing nearly as much. It's like
They are
crazy that
losing their minds.
because it's weird. You've literally, it's like you're going back to the 1930s. You've got the communists and not quite the fascists this time, but some form of resistance to the communists.
You have communists that have taken over the fully taken over now the university system. So for the most part, what you have is them breeding these radicals. The professors that talk about all the wonderful work that they did back in their day in the 1960s, supporting civil rights, and that they're going to be the new warriors for the new civil rights movement, and that's who they see themselves as. And then they send them out there. Well, what is it that they have to protest? Okay, racism. Racism in the United States, while don't get me wrong, still exists, is not nearly what it was back in the 1960s, all right, or even the 1950s or so. Okay, for all intents and purposes, from the standpoint of individual racism, yeah, it exists. But as far as institutional racism that they all want to complain about, when people start saying, "Okay, point it out to me," they can't. Okay, so what are they going to fight for?
Yeah,
Also
we have-
consider the way that Antifa actually makes a decision or takes an action. Basically, it's communal discussion and communal consensus in a way that anybody with aggressive or over-the-top ideas is gonna get much more traction with somebody with, let's say, kind of moderate opinions or kind of moderate
Just look at
plans.
Richard Spencer. That's the perfect example. Just like if you have moderate opinions, then you kind of just blend in with the crowd. But if you're eccentric, then you make headlines.
Yeah. I think the more moderate people are the ones to watch out for.
Oh yeah, no, the silent majority, but they're not the ones in the news. They're doing the actual work and the behind the
When you
scenes
say
damage.
that the moderates are the ones to watch out for, what do you mean?
The moderates would be more of the people that are doing the like a moderator, saying, okay, these people go here, these people go here. They're the ones. They're the brains behind these little
The
movements.
organizers.
Yeah.
That's a strange assumption, Carrie. I had this impression that it's actually the very outspoken and very extremists that are playing the first fiddle in the Antifa.
No,
But they are the
absolutely not.
driving
Absolutely
force.
not. Think
How can you tell that?
this. Think about this logically. If you had the complete asinine idiots out there that are out there throwing their fists, slinging poles, wrenches and socks and all that stuff on the Antifa side, do you think those people have the slightest clue how to make a group and get things done in the aspect of what they've gotten done so far? I mean, just think about it.
A few of them do. They only
There's
need
a
about
couple.
they only need about one for every 100 or 200 like rabble rousers. So in other words, they have 10 of them. They could have up to 2,000 there. That there's like 10 of them interstice. That's their battle plans out there. We've got Milo's toolkit.
Oh no, I totally believe it. But in my little theory, you have
But I would
those
never call
brains
them
behind
moderates.
it, sitting at the computers, on Twitter, on Reddit, all that good stuff.
Well, look, it's a system made to fail. And let me explain that very quickly. They tell them to take airsoft guns and pellet guns. They know they're going to have things that look like firearms going and antagonizing people that have firearms.
Mhm.
They go out there and they send these girls, just like I was showing in Caracol, Molly Locks getting punched. And they do that on purpose because their end game is not to win the battle, it's to win the war.
Oh,
Yes,
the whole goal of the leftists.
Zero.
And that's who you're dealing with. Their whole goal is to martyr these Antifa. They're going to treat these Antifa as if they're the great holy martyrs of, just like the Nazis did.
Mm.
All right, for some of their stormtroopers, and you can see it building that it's going to get to that. Now the problem the difference between the Germany and the United States is during the riots back in the 1930s, the communists and the Nazis, they also fought with the local police. They fought each other, yes, but they also fought with the local police. In the United States right now, what you have is in some of these really hardcore leftist areas, such as Berkeley, you have the police being told to stay out of it.
Mm.
But the people who are rising up to confront them are just the average people who are sick to death of these little, turnips going in there and destroying their shit. And there is in the United States a tradition of vigilantism that you don't see in other countries. And I think that that's what you're going to be running into. If the police don't take care of it, then what you're going to see is the local population will start to put people in these areas, and it will get violent. And I fully expect if the police do not crack down, at this event coming up, then I fully expect there to be bodies.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Which
say that
event
I'm
is
getting
this?
this vibe. We're all feeling it in the air that someone's gonna die. It's inevitable the way things are going.
There will be
can't-
bodies. That's what they want. The problem is, like you said, they're martyring them. But again, to reiterate an earlier point, they have no wars to fight. My father and my uncle all served in Vietnam, and when my two uncles came back, they were spat in the face being called baby killers because people that were at Berkeley didn't have a fucking clue what was going on. And so you've got all these rich little snots coming in thinking that, oh my God, we're starting a revolution. We can, it's like the 1960s. They don't have a fucking clue. And
what's really going on.
And they're being sacrificed. And people like me, the average person, we're just standing back like, well, while you're doing that, we're going to work. We're going to make commentary on this. We're going to pay our bills. We're going to raise our family, and we're going to watch your bloodlines get wiped out because you're too goddamn stupid to figure out what not to do. This isn't the 1960s. And I'm going to make a point here on racism, which since the days of Daryl Gates, things have we had a relatively calm period in the 2000s. But since the day of Daryl Gates and all that shit that happened in the mid-90s, which I was in high school watching that shit, going facepalming myself, which it's gotten exponentially worse because people have become entitled shitheads. And these people that are at the university who don't know jack shit about life, they don't have the life experience to understand that they're being duped. Everybody does stupid crap in their 20s, in their teens. You realize about in your mid-20s, you're like, I was being an idiot. I need to grow up. They don't want to
Nobody in
grow
that
up.
crowd is over 28. I can guarantee.
Exactly.
And the ones that are there are
Except for the females. Except for the females. The
instructors.
The females
They
are
don't
older.
give a shit. They've got their tenure. They think they can relive the 1960s. They think they can do all this. And as I made a note in the commentary, they're pissing off the alumni. In Iowa University, alumni donations have dropped because they're starting to embrace behavior like this.
True as well.
Students are. And when you
enrollment
lose the money,
drastic.
you lose the enrollments of the students. People get out of jobs, and it's like your tenure exists because you do not piss off the people who went there as students or are now alumni. I'm an alumni of my school, and they sent me a thing that says, would you like to donate? And said, no, you guys have a lot of changing to do before I even send $1 out of my pocket.
But
Get
that's the
over
thing.
it.
I get enough government and everything else too. I don't donate to any school I've ever went to, and I've went to a couple.
I've been approached by my university and by my high school, and I'm not giving them a cent.
Yeah, I paid them enough, and my parents paid them enough. They got it. And you know what I got is I did anyway. You know, the problem is that it's peddled right now. What I keep hearing, they just did in San Francisco. If you're there, it's going to start soon. It says it's going to cost $5 million. I'm sure MC remembers this because I said it probably costs, 10 times more. And MC was like, nah, it probably costs $50 million if they say 5, because San Francisco says they're going to have a community college if you live within the city for a year or more. My wife works with somebody way over here that is moved out there to be there for a year when this opens up so she can go to school for free. Does that tell you anything? They're going to be overrun. There'll be people sitting in the halls. It's community college. They don't have like auditoriums, and anyway, they have a couple of auditoriums. I can almost guarantee you, but they don't have, it's not like you're going to Harvard or Michigan State University or Iowa, IU or someplace like that.
Well, that's the thing about our local. We have what's called the EICC district, and in 3 of our towns, Clinton, and then in Davenport, and then in a southern Iowa town called Muscatine, we have this branch of community colleges called EICC. And we basically are there to basically tell people, look, you are not here to screw off. You are here to get your extracurriculars done in your education, and then you can move on, or you can come here and to one of our 3 schools in the district, and you can get a trade or a certification.
Well, and I'm glad you said trade.
And
Let me
they
jump on
don't
that really
mention
quick,
that stuff
Zero,
here.
because we got a question in the chat that I want to address right now. As soon as you said trade like that, that was a great thing, and then continue. But this is to Very Berry Blue. Yes, there are things you can go to school, or as Zero just said, trade school, because he's mentioned his father worked in a shop. My father worked in a shop. My stepdad worked in a shop and owned a transmission shop for 48 years. And there's many things you can do. He went to technical school. Also STEM. And if you're serious about it, the philosophies and science and art, play an instrument. But that said, if you go to school, go with serious intent. It shouldn't be given out to everyone. And as Zero's going to finish right now, it's a calling. If you think if you're good at something, and you might not necessarily love to do it in every case, but if you're a good welder, or you're a good singer, or you're good at cutting up frogs and seeing its heart in biology, and you're a good doctor, go do that thing. Put the time in and get it done. But to answer this question, Zero, and then you finish, yes, there's tons of degrees you can get that are good, but one of them is not intersectional feminism or communications or gender studies. I show a book that I'm not going to go grab because then I end up putting it on my hoarded up desk. But I got a book I bought. It was $128 when I was in school. And it's like women and gender roles throughout the ancient West. In other words, Greece, it talked about the island of Lesbos. I still remember stuff because I had to write freaking papers on this class. That did me. In fact, I do believe when I went in there, I had an IQ of somewhere around 132. And when I left, it must have been somewhere around 98.
Oh, God, yes.
And I had to recover from that over years. I'm still probably not nearly up to what I was before I went in.
Okay, could you present my image while we're on this topic? I think it'll
And then go ahead, Zero. I'm sorry I jumped in there, but I had
No,
to
that's
answer
fine.
the question. That's serious. You know it, Zero, and you were saying as I present this.
I think that's I'm gonna follow up for
Please.
Barry Blue. The quick question, since college has been brought up, is it worth attending a college for a degree of any sorts? The answer is yes or no. Depends what you want to go to. If you do not want to waste your time and money getting a degree that you cannot get into the field because of the way that the job market is and the way that companies behave, feel free to go to a trade school. My daughter has decided to go into the Air Force, and she's going to stick with her nursing. She decided not to get a degree, and she decided to get certifications, which is actually hands-on and better for her in the job market. She will get additional training in the military going into the Air Force, and then that is basically going to make her unstoppable. She chose to go to the trade part of nursing as opposed to just getting a degree without hands-on. She decided to split things up, go from a CNA, work for a year and a half, get some hands-on at some assisted living facilities, and then go for her LPN and so on and so forth. If you want the full college experience, you can do the same thing by going to a trade school or breaking up your time getting certification without all the bullshit of getting stabbed in the back with possible loans or sucker punch of political bullshit. You're there to basically grab onto what you want to do and say, hey, I have the physical capability of doing what I'm going to do. So that's why you would want to go to a trade school or get certification. Degrees can come later on after you get certification because people will know, oh, you've got the experience? Yes, we believe that you can succeed and get a degree to back up your certification or your trade. That's what kids don't understand these days. That's what I didn't understand when I went. So when I decided to go later in life, I cleaned up all my grades and said, you know what, screw this, I'm getting certification. I don't give a damn about getting a degree because it means nothing to me. But again, that's just me. Some people have connections, which sometimes is good, sometimes is bad, and they can get a degree and they know how to get out there and use it right away. So it's either way, it's your own personal choice. Never let anybody tell you otherwise.
Excuse me.
There
so
is a
sorry.
pretty good example of a successful trade school. I believe Falcon Millennial went to one, and at early 20s, he's got good job, no debt whatsoever, and he's pretty happy with what he's doing. And yeah, there is a perfectly clear career path in front of him. He'll be expanding his knowledge, expanding his abilities, and his certification. That's one way to go.
How much does American university cost? Because over here in Britain, it's kind of, I think for
it varies very
It
widely.
just
because-
depends.
how much per year? Because here it's $9,000 a
Well,
year.
if you go to a state university, you can pretty easily expect to spend $20,000 would be roughly average. Like Michigan State University probably costs $22,000. That would be your freshman year. That would include everything
Wait,
except
one
for
year?
books.
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
just
but
one
look,
year.
that would not include books, which
But
would
that's
run you
just-
probably. Hang on a second.
But
Now
once
look.
again, that's Michigan. That's not.
Well, and let's look at like Berkeley. I could look
well,
it up.
Nebraska. I'm talking about University of Nebraska is probably about 12,000.
Ooh,
right.
That's
Berkeley is probably closer to 45.
Well, there you go. So a 20 is a good median.
Wait, per year? But wait, what's that?
Well, but then you got to
translated
add
into
books. You got to add like pizza.
Into pounds, that would be about 24. About
Yeah, you have
24,000
to add
pounds.
pizza.
No. It would actually be less pounds if you go 20 as a median. In other words, look, your base tuition would range you roughly about 15,000 to 16,500 pounds British sterling. And then if you looked at your books, also another $5,000 a year. Your eating, another $2,000 a year at least.
Your board.
Your beer. No, your board would probably be included in that MC. Wouldn't you say that would go with your first 3-4 years as a freshman, on through?
I never really.
In the dorms, though, mate. I mean, in the hellhole. Now, you wouldn't be like in the Ritz-Carlton. You'd be in a fucking boys' dorm or whatever. If you went to co-ed and be a dipshit, go there and you never get any sleep. Get
No,
What was
contact
your question,
board on
Matt?
every time you got home.
My question was, it's kind of like over here, it's like $9,000 a year, and
No, it
people-
costs you probably closer to $25,000, all things figured, median.
That's just ridiculous.
But if you went, but like you said, if you go to a private college like one that I know of, it's more like 60 to 80,000 if you go to a private place.
Let-
Like I could give a couple examples. Probably.
And for that price, your kids get churned out as social justice warriors. Good
Look, I
God.
know of what they call a parochial school. In other words, it's under college, the prep school. It's an academy, is how they refer to it. It's close to here by about 40 miles. It costs about $18,000 a year to send your kid there. Last I checked, probably by now it might be upward of 20. And with that, they get room and board. They come home on Christmas. It's this hardcore. So there you go. Education is highly prized, but in that school and in other private ones, if you don't measure up, you go and get. Well, in the old days, they give you 6 or 12 of the best. That means paddle your ass till you cried. And then if that didn't work, they just throw you out. You know, if you didn't want to do right, they just kick you out. And so they're not doing that.
That'll
with
break
this
your
other
heart.
thing. Yeah, I rambled on that. You see what I'm saying there, Matt? They're not doing that with this thing. A low price and everybody go to school is fine. As long as you abide by the rules, it's academia rules. Know that you should be there for STEM and whatnot. But if not, you better excel in something else, like you better excel in STEM. Because nowadays they're trying to jump down from you get a C and you stand. Used to be called the gentleman's C. If you were just making it, but you were really trying, your professor might give you a C. But if you got less than a C, you didn't pass. A C minus didn't mean you got to go on to the next. That was your prerequisite was done. No, if you had to do it again till you got a C. And most people should know that. MC knows that. But nowadays they're trying to say, well, even if you try. Well, look, okay, if you really want to bend on that, which I'm not for, bend on, I guess, I don't even know where to bend on that. It's hard for me to say anything. But definitely don't bend in the STEM. You know, science. Does everybody know what STEM is? And there you go. There's my whole. The college thing is a big, deep, hard, touchy subject for me because a person can waste a tremendous amount of time, energy, space when they could have done what Zero was talking about. And that is, if you're a good welder, why not go to technical school? A plumber right now is making as much as a psychologist in New York City and doesn't work as long and don't have the paperwork and worry about dealing with folk every day, except for in their home. Hi, Mrs. Jones. I'm here to fix your fucking plumbing. Now pay me, $95 an hour.
95? Are you kidding me?
Oh, it's more than that in New York City.
Oh, it's
New York
right
City,
now.
you're
If I
talking
call
to
you
an
a
idiot.
plumber,
In Iowa, it's about $65 an hour, but you got to think about the
Thanks.
cost of living as opposed to New York. So yeah, I would say easily $100 in New York.
No, about
Easy.
probably $200, $150 to $200 an hour. It would not surprise me at all.
The drain doctors here would charge you $90 an hour, and that's in a pretty rural city. But out in this direction, it'd probably be a little more if I need them right now. The trick is for me, MC, I do my own plumbing. I just do it.
13 years ago, I went to trade school to become a makeup artist and an esthetician, and it cost me. And this was a 16-month course, and it cost me right at about $16,500 for the entire course. So, but it was full time. I didn't have
What did
room.
you get out of it, though, Carrie?
I'm a professional makeup artist.
So
It's
you
my-
still do it. You still find that trade.
Yeah, it's my career.
So you, in other words, have you paid that price back and then earned money on top of it?
Yeah, absolutely. It
It's
was
been a net
very,
gain. I'd
very
like to hear
good
a little bit
investment.
about that. If you want to explain how that worked out for you better than going and trying to be a fucking philosopher or whatever else. Did it work out well for you?
Okay, so whenever I was in high school, I've always loved writing. I've always loved journalism and things of that nature. But also, I've always loved horses. Typical Southern girl. So I had other interests when I was growing up and in high school, but things kind of didn't work out that way. And I have always been really good with makeup and cosmetics and doing hair and all the good girly stuff. So I've always did my friend's hair makeup. I always did everybody's Halloween gory special effects makeup. So I knew I was good at it. So my dad was like, well, why don't you find a way to make money doing it? And I looked into it and went in. The course was 16 months, and I just went in for makeup artistry and ended up coming out as a makeup artist, an esthetician, which is basically a junior dermatologist, and a nail tech. So I can charge anywhere from $125 an hour to $375 for about 2 hours.
And I bet
So-
you've got certification on your wall. If anybody questions you, you can say, "You see that little piece of paper? That's
Absolutely,
why."
I do. Yep,
That's
my-
exactly
that's my
exactly with
golden-
me.
That's my golden ticket.
That's exactly with me and my certification in networking. Somebody says, "Can you look at my computer?" And I go, "You got $75?" No, then I'm not looking at it. Well, how can you say that? I said, because I busted my ass for 3 years straight in college, getting a trade and getting hands-on, working for the computer lab at that same college,
Yep.
which went towards my, my certification, and it's on my wall in my, my house. And my wife's like, you can tell people you can $50 to $75 just if you want to be a dick about it. It's like, oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Which is why I never do anything outside of my work.
People want discounts and they want favors and stuff like that. And I was like, look, you don't understand. I went to school for 16 months. I gave up 16 months worth of weekends, except for Christmas, to get this. I missed time with my family. I missed time with friends. And I spent nearly 20 grand to do this as well. So I didn't get it for free. You're not going to get my skills for free. So I'm sorry.
And then, do you ever run across family members that want you to do it?
Oh, pissy. They get pissy. Oh, they get pissy.
Oh,
I'm like, okay, I'm not going to come to your job and
That's
say,
right.
if you worked at like Walmart or something, I'm not going to go into Walmart and be like, give me some free groceries. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I need some makeup supplies. You work at Walmart anyway. How about I go fill up my purse with these cosmetics?
That would be fantastic.
I've done tile. I do things now, but there are things that I do that my neighbors and stuff, they feel the benefits from because I have a little bounty and they're my neighbors. But for the most part, I mean, if I perform a service, I do expect low compensation. This thing aside, because this is a relief for me, so I don't look at it as a service. Anyway, that is amazing that so Zero, you have also been to trade school. Oh, he's gone. He left.
Yeah.
No, and that's cool. I didn't even look to see if he was down there.
Sorry, that was Butterfinger's wrong button.
You've been to trade school also?
When I went back to mine was very simple. When I graduated from high school, I didn't want to go to college. I went straight to work in a factory like my father. But my dad said, you know what, you're so much better than this because of your personality. And I never, of course, didn't make it in the military, got rejected, 4F, that's just the way it rolls. So when I did decide to go back to when I actually did decide to go to college, I said I didn't want to sit around for, I didn't want to go to Iowa University because I fucking hate the kids. And so I decided to go to, up over in the Eastern Community College District. And I said, well, what can I get where I can get certified? And they said, what, you don't want a degree? And I go, oh, hell no. So I don't want to be in here. I said, I didn't like high school. I don't want to be here any longer than I have to. So they said, oh, well, start over in programming, which I can't sit down on my ass and program. It's boring as hell. So they said, okay, you've already got this out of the way. You got this out of the way. Just go head over to networking. So I went over to networking and I was taking stuff apart with my hands. So for computers, getting certified in networking is trade school. But most people, and I think most people agree that viewing trade school would be like, we've got welding, we've got plumbing, we've got all the hands-on stuff that everybody who thinks they can be Bill Gates or Steve Jobs doesn't want to do and get their hands on. And then when they realize you've got paperwork that says, oh, yes, I can sit in a boardroom and tell you what to do. And it's like, well, when your drinking faucet goes out or your computer goes out, I've got the paperwork that basically says, bitch, I'm going to charge you $150 and you can kiss my ass. So that's how we view it.
And the problem is that there's too many people in those boardrooms that disdain tradesmen.
And they're crying and they're getting bitched at by their wives who basically said, don't piss off the plumber. Because
that's true, but when they're in charge of the boardroom, they start coming in and saying, well, if I'm going to choose who's going to work under me, I'm going to start creating my own minimum requirements. And their minimum requirements a lot of times require, I want this degree or I want that specific degree, just to, it helps limit the number of applications. But the other thing it does is it's kind of like a self-fulfilling kind of trade guild type of environment, and I've seen that with the way businesses run, where they keep going back. Do you have a degree in business?
That's never going to change. But it's the people that are going to the trade schools. We're ultimately having the last laugh. Before I got to my job, I actually had to deal with a guy. He's like, well, I've been doing this job since blah 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 blah. I'm like, yeah. So you expect me to have this all underneath my belt? And they're like, yeah. And I go, all right, good luck finding somebody. It took them twice as long to find somebody because they wanted somebody. We want somebody with like 4 years of hands-on. It's like, well, I've got 2.5, and that was basically because I got that for my certification, and I've got a reference from my college and my boss at the college, which I did get paid for through the college, by the way. So I was an employee and a student at the same time, because that was called that was called my brain can't think of it right now, but it was part of your requirements to do so. And there's a word for it, and if I ever think of it, I'll tell you guys. No, it wasn't an apprenticeship. It was, gosh darn it, it was a requirement for graduation. You actually had to go out and work study.
Oh, there you go.
So it was work study. It was part of the work study program in regards to getting my certification. So I actually worked for the college, and so I was a student and I was a staff member there, which that on whole, thing to itself. So I said, yeah, that's great. Good luck finding it. And they would have to hire people who wanted more. And they wasted more money getting half the work, because the people they were hiring were these kids out of Iowa who had no life experience and no hands-on experience, no customer service experience from any job working at like a Burger King like I had. I worked at Wendy's for 4 years in high school, all through high school, and that's how I got hands-on and learned what not to do. And it's like,
you got street smart.
Yeah, I'm more common sense and street smart as opposed to book smart.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a better word.
And that's because that's how my father was, and my mom is very book smart. My sister's very book smart, but they're also not stupid. They are not egotistical, which seems to be the biggest issue people have these days, that their egos can run rampant and do whatever they want, and then it's realized you're coming across a guy like me who doesn't give a shit and will let you suffer. So you
Zero, if you don't mind me interrupting you for a second, what area do you come from in the U.S.?
I'm from Iowa.
Well,
you're Iowa.
Shit, what he means by that is like the grasshopper and the ant. The grasshopper watches the ant work all summer long, and the ants say, "Grasshopper, you can't just play in the sun." And when the middle of winter comes, grasshopper comes knocking on the ant's door with a family in there with his food stored. What's he gonna do? Feed the fun-loving, summer-loving dude that wouldn't listen? That's not necessarily cold-hearted, but in your heart, Zero, like myself, especially somebody from Iowa that understands the bitter winter, man, where you better have your shit together. Or you're not gonna get,
keep command of fish.
Depending upon your trade, there's no work. If you're a farmer, you better have, what I mean? And it's
Did I
hard.
just hear a rooster in the
Yes,
background?
you did.
Yeah, you better.
Oh my fucking god!
That's why we get. That's why
His
we
name
get.
is Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. That was awesome. That's
why we take that roosters and make them chicken nuggets.
He's a full-bred cock.
That was funny.
Yeah, I have some that are going to get slaughtered here the first of next month, and I got my smoker going right now, girl. I make jerk Jew meat, and the chickens are all raised here, and I smoke them and sell them.
Yeah, send me chicken nuggets.
If you want
there.
them slaughtered for free, you just put them on the stream of cabbage.
I don't know. I butchered a lot of chickens. I can't tell you, sir. I never found a nugget on a chicken unless you're talking about the balls on a rooster. Where you'd expect them if you've never butchered a rooster. They're up on.
Have you ever smoked deer meat?
Oh yeah.
Made deer jerky. Oh god, I love deer jerky. It's so good.
I use an ancient Jewish recipe. I can't tell you.
You should send me that.
My grandmother would come back from the dead and kill me.
I have no idea what my dad uses, but oh god, it is so freaking good.
Well, when I found out what turkey strips were, and I said to my dad, "How the fuck do you eat that?" If you know what turkey strips are, because I live very close to what was once Louis Rich. Probably most folks may know the name, some don't, but it's called West Liberty Foods now, which is actually a massive supplier for not only Subway, but Walmart in regards to their turkey across America.
Shit, yeah.
They were once called, well, I say we because it's an Iowa thing, were once called Louis Rich, so we know what turkey strips are.
Yeah, I was fixing to say, okay, I know what you're talking about. That's not real meat. That's not real turkey.
Oh, it's real.
Yeah, but it's not what they're trying to make it seem.
Yeah,
like.
it's not what
the
they think.
idea of turkey. That's why people. There's a market right now that's springing up for local stuff. That's why I was out plowing the backfield, man. I grow vegetables, and I do. Most of it is for my own consumption, but not the meat. I got a lot of chickens, man. I got 150 chickens. A lot of those are for the eggs, and then for consumption and smoking and selling because if you're my age and you're eating chicken right now from the local government store, whatever it may be, insert local market here, Albertsons, whatever, Winn-Dixie, I'm trying to think of ones that I don't even know if they exist anymore.
Food Lion, Publix,
Food Lion, Food Lion, whatever. Any place like this. The meat there is the idea of meat. It's not meat. If you grew up like I did, you'll remember what real beef and chicken tasted like before they started effing with it and ruining it.
Oh,
And
God,
that's
you know,
what my
I
chicken
still wish
tastes
we used to have a butcher about the equivalency of 12 blocks away from my house. And thankfully places in my town like Hy-Vee and Fairway, they do now have a butcher shop, and they are they're
coming back.
Oh, it's great that it was coming back. We've had that for like 7 or 8 years in our town, but we used to have actual butchers, and then everything we got was just basically in a store without a butcher shop.
Well,
And it was just sucked. So it's great to have butchers again.
It's funny you said Iowa, because that's the problem is Iowa, and the solution is Iowa, because in Iowa is where U.S. meats. There's a bunch of butcher shops in Iowa, which are now not butcher shops. There's huge factory operations where thousands of cows come, man. They make ground.
Those are slaughterhouses.
Slaughterhouse, yes, that's what I mean. And that's what's killing, because there used to be, I've watched it happen. It used to be there was a butcher there, even in the markets that we named. He's in the bag, he's got a white thing on covered in blood, and he comes out, he's bringing it, because they get a side, he's back there cutting it into the pieces. Well, then they started making this package, and only quarters came, and then this, and then pretty soon it's all packaged. And instead of having a dude there making $25, $28, $30 an hour, doing a good skilled trade, or a woman, there was women butchers, very few and far between they were, but there were some. And now it's just somebody putting out the packages of meat from the doggone government store. Fuck that.
I'd love to continue listening to your discussion on meat, but I think I'm going to opt out.
I thought it was late.
Cheers, guys.
I was just going to say, Carrickle.
Bye, Carrickle.
Thank you so much, Carrickle. I do have to say, I showed
Thanks, Carrie.
Good night, sweetheart.
Night, Carrie.
Good night.
I showed his video earlier, man. I'd say he's got a bunch of shorties. He really has issues with the Young Turks, and I don't blame him. I do too. He just is more focused on them, or was for a while, and still has his subreddit. The Young Turks suck. Check it out. That's it. I'm about ready to haul ass, folks. It's getting late. And my meat, I can't believe I'm still doing this. Everybody's mocking me, and they will later in the comments be like, short stream, huh? Because that's what I named it. I won't change.
Oh yeah, that was too much fun to make fun of you for that.
Yeah, you were like the first, but you won't be the last, Zero.
I usually get the pot shots in early, so everybody else has something to
You
fall
were the
back
one
and
that
say.
did. You were the one that did the parody of what was that with the John Cusack, the kid? Because it was like.
Oh yeah, you know, I knew that was gonna. I just was.
That was hilarious.
I just had to do that.
Put it
That
in
was
comments.
the say anything, and it's like.
It's like it said,
I love you guys. I love you guys, but you were kissing Sargon's ass so much just because it was fandom, not
I got
because
to. I had to.
you. And that's
Well,
fair.
it's
I
more
do
than
the
that.
same thing with Razor Fist. I'd be outside Razor Fist's place playing Peter Gabriel, and he'd be like, "Get the fuck!"
Oh, I got
out
it. I got it 2 ways today. Somebody else was watching the Razor Fist video, and their comment was Razor Fist had the girls and Ogre melting, and they were like,
He probably did.
Yeah, and that's why I said I responded. I was like, yeah, he was pretty, it was, But it's what it is for me is it's not even about somebody being a celebrity or not. I think I said it earlier, so I'll make it really quick. It's more about seeing my peers that have excelled in what I do and handled that very well. I asked Sargon 2 things. The most things that mattered to me was I said, how do you handle all the shit that comes with it? And right away, he jumped on what, trolls suck, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck. They don't know me. And so, but then I asked my real question was that, so how do you handle the people that come and slap you on the back and the sycophants side of it? And he said the same thing, he's like, yeah, they don't know me. And that's how I like to look at this whole ordeal that I'm in. Is it, well, it's just kind of like a cyber thing, and it's fun. No matter how big or small it gets. But Sargon, I mean, you got to admit it, dude. He's got over 500,000 people subscribed to him. His average video gets 300, 400,000 views, man. That's pretty. I was like, I kissed his ass.
I couldn't believe I took a nap and you guys were still going about 6 hours later. I'm thinking,
I'm gonna ask him on again, and I would say before I even try to DM him again and be like, hey, I was just catching up with you. It'd probably be 4 months because I don't want to bust his balls. But I won't ask him on the show again. If he ever wants to come in, of course, Sargon, you can come on. There's my ass kissing. But if I won't ask him again for at least 8 months, maybe even a year, because that's the kind of thing you don't want to wear that out. I'm not really friends with him. He was just cool and came on because he knows the Britisher. The Britisher did that thing, and it was some serendipity and a little bit of synergy. And I'm you know, that was cool. But you know what? Everyone's going to hit me on that, and I'll never change that. As long as I'm the host of the Monday show, when Nachi comes on Monday, y'all will see me kiss his ass. Probably, I'm going to say to a magnitude of 2. For what you're saying to Sargon, because I'll feel freer to pump him up because he doesn't have 600,000 followers. In fact, I think he's got like 7 or 5. I don't even know. It's not a ton. He's under 1,000.
Can I
But-
interject something in here?
Oh
I
yeah,
think-
because I was going to go on another rant about how much I love Nachi. So of course you can.
No, I know. I just
Zero,
wanna
you got a little bit of an echo.
That's not me. That's you guys.
Is
I'm
it?
on. Yeah, I'm on headphones, man.
Yeah, so am I. It's
So
gone
that's-
now.
That's
I'm
somebody
sure
else.
it was me.
It's probably Ogre, but whatever. I've actually only met one celebrity in my whole life. Is when he came to Davenport, Iowa, and to the Adler Theater, and that was Gabriel Iglesias. In fact, I still have a picture of it with my very best friend, Kimberly, and her son was so upset that he couldn't go. And I said, well, you know, this is for adults. And it did run until 2 in the morning. And Mr. Gabriel Iglesias is so humble and he loves his fans. And he had a fellow comedian with him named Alfred Robles, who was kind of being a dick. And he didn't want Gabriel, like he could tell Gabriel what to do. It was Gabriel's show. And Gabriel's like, yeah, I'll put on the Mountain Dew hat. And he's wearing a Mountain Dew hat. And for his son. And he signed a picture for my friend's son. And I said, you know, there are people that you watch on interviews, you see them on TV, you read their body language, and you can see them in videos on YouTube. Those are the type of people, and I would say the same thing about David Ellefson of Megadeth, to where you want to sit down and meet these people and have lunch with them, even if you pay the bill. And Gabriel Iglesias is very much like that. Sargon is very much like that. Razor Fist is very much like that. You may not agree with everything, but you know they present themselves in the manners, yes, everybody has a right to an opinion, but these are the people you want to sit down and have lunch with, and they're the ones that you're privileged enough, and why you do, you know, act like a fanboy, because I do with David Ellison. I talk to him all the time, you know, and he's like, yeah, you're from Iowa. It's like, yeah, you know, and he's from Jackson, Minnesota, so I'm psyched about going to his coffee shop soon, and Ellison Coffee, and it's just, you know, that's the mentality that people should have that we seem to be losing and or lacking. But with Sargon, Gabriel, David Ellefson, Razorfist, these are people that give us this privilege to meet them in person or talk with them on the internet, and it's a great thing. And I think people should be more appreciative of that on a whole, because they could always say no.
And the chat's starting to die out. You gotta know when you're whipped. I'm whipped. I gotta get it together, man. I only got like about another hour, and so I'm gonna have to look at my phone before the jerky's coming out. The Jew meat. I can actually tell you. And
I was gonna excuse myself because I
it's
have
time
a
to
prior engagement that I have to head off to. But it was
Thank you
fun
so
talking
much,
to you
Karen.
guys.
I
Oh,
got
of course.
But yeah, I can't believe this much time has rolled by. How you
I know,
doing, Karen?
it
sent
goes
out a
by.
thing earlier. If you want to give yourself a little plug, do it.
Oh, thanks very much. I'm doing great. If you want to come and visit me on Twitter, it's @mudpuddle, MUDDPUTTLE, and I also have a YouTube channel, which is duly noted, with Carrie Waska, which
Leave
is
those things
me.
going too in the chat too. If you want, girl, I'm gonna bomb me out. I'm gonna quit here in a second and go over there and watch it.
Whenever I get it, I'll share it on my
Okay.
Twitter, or I'll come back and
Just
I'll
make
drop
sure,
it.
of course,
I'll
so you
drop it
don't
back
send the
in.
link accidentally. Of course, double check.
No, I won't send the link.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm a pro at this.
Yeah, I'm sure. Thank you so much.
All right, you guys have a good night. Later.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. It was a privilege to meet you.
Thanks.
Mud Puddle at Twitter. And I was gonna play a song, but now I'm beat. So it
Yep,
was
it's
such a
time
good
for me to
time.
roll out too, because I have to moderate Tree of Logic.
Oh man, I'm gonna go probably check that out. That's right now.
That's going to be at around 8 o'clock Central Time.
All right. Oh,
8
it's
or
an hour and a half.
8:30.
All right, brother. Enjoy it, man. That's a shitload of people that go on there. That's
Well,
like,
it's-
like a ticker.
She's more not as refined as Anthony Brown Logan and lets some stuff fly, but you still don't let people come in and bully other people or the mods or be disrespectful.
Right.
So, all right, I'm out of here. Peace out.
All right, dude. Later. I'm leaving MC.
Yeah, whoops, sorry, forgot to unmute myself. Yep, it's about time for me to head out too. So
All right, bro.
Everybody in the chat, it was nice being on again. I appreciate you hosting me.
I'm sorry I stopped the political stuff. Come on tomorrow or Sunday, man. Sunday, if Cowboys don't show up, I'll let you and the British freaking have at each other. I don't care. It's like a political.
It's not that so much is there's this whole society, whether it's European society or even our society, is in so much of a hurry, and your expectations are, I want things now, I want things immediate. Just relax a little bit. Let's see how things play out.
Yeah, good idea. And that said, listen, folks, look for me tomorrow, 3:00 Eastern Standard Time. Of course, PM. I don't know if I'll try to move that time forward or back. I'll probably just leave it there. Most of the time, I'll go for about 3 hours or until everybody gets sick of hearing each other talk. We talk about life, love, philosophy, music, politics, political maneuvers, and also maneuvers that MC knows about, as in the military kind. And that said, listen, be good to your friends, be good to your family members and your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, your family member, your loved one has done seems to be so huge, you'll never be able to forget about it. Because constant viewers, those of you left hanging around after everybody's faded out, at a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, your life, your cause, and the Church of Keck will depart from you. Ha ha! Sydney Rough Diamond.